This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone? It is game day. Get the whites ready. Jets on the road tonight. Game 3, late night. Puck will drop probably around 8:52 p.m. But as the Winnipeg Jets motto seems to be through the playoffs, anywhere, anytime, any place. The times have been all over the place. The venue changes, but they'll be looking for the same result tonight. A victory to go up 3-0 in their best of 7 first-round series. We're going to be spending a lot of time in St. Louis today. Jeremy Rutherford of The Athletic covering the Blues is first up. And then his colleague from The Athletic, our good friend and WST regular Murat will also join us to tee up tonight's game. There is lots happening around the National Hockey League. We'll get to some of last night's action right off the top. And then later on in the show, Dave Pagnotta is going to jump on, get his thoughts on Jets Blues, the other Canadian teams in their series so far, and also a little bit of a trip around the league for a number of coaching vacancies and now general manager openings as well. So that should be fun. We'll have Dave join us a little later on today. But the focus is on the Jets, who are just as we go live right now, finishing up their AM skate. So we should hopefully have Scott Arniel and some Jets audio a little later on in the show. We do, however, have Jim Montgomery, who was last seen singing along to the outfield on the bench at Canada Life Centre as his team trailed 2-1 late in the third period. We will hear from Monty as to how his team is feeling and what he's focusing on heading into tonight's game before we bring in Jeremy Rutherford. Listen, just before we get going, shout out to all you podcast listeners. The numbers have been huge, got pushed into the top 10 in Canada this week. Appreciate everyone enjoying the Winnipeg Sports Talk playoff content. A big thanks to everyone that's with us in chat right now. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And as I reminded you, turn on notifications because the playoffs are here. There's no days off. We've got a ton of content coming out, both here on the YouTube channel as well as on our other socials. Even included a review of the BP playoff menu last night. Enjoyed all the feedback on that as well. Speaking of Boston Pizza, huge thanks to the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Our good friends at BP, our partners at Coolbet Canada, Princess Auto, Toyota, Prairie Toyota Dealers, KFC. Welcome aboard Ben Moss. Jewelers, of course, Rolly's Transfer, St. Vital Dental Center, Canadian Club, and Manitoba Battery. Let's Do It Travel, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, F Apparel, Breezy Bend, Royal Sports, Little Brown Jug, and of course, we'll get to fan feedback brought to you by fansfirst.ca, Breezy Bend Golf and Country Club, and a Why Not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. What is up, everybody? Oh, I see Dan Jets fan. Loved your BP review. Seen your BP TikTok. Well, part of it was me. Part of it was great camera work by Zolt, and part of it was great editing by Michael Remis, who joins us now. Getting ready for Game 3. What's up, dude?
What's up? I got like Jim Montgomery right now. I got the outfield. Your Love stuck in my head. We never talked about it. What did you think of him lip syncing the songs over the speakers there at the game? Is that allowed? As a head coach, should he be doing that, or should he be more focused on the on-ice action?
Well, hey, he likes his girls a little bit older, and it's not afraid to tell everybody that. I thought it was a little bizarre. I mean, but it was sort of fun, good-natured. I mean, I always wondered what the coaches do when they kind of turn it over to the assistants who are setting up plays. At some point, you just got to kick back and enjoy the atmosphere and what's going on in the rink. And I can tell you, being up in 316 for that game, it was a very fun moment in the game as the Jets were looking to shut it down. Probably would have felt a little differently if I was the head coach of the St. Louis Blues, but fun, no foul. Although, did anyone get mad online about it?
I think people respected it. I think people understand that, is a song that came out when he was in high school. And songs you hear in high school, they don't leave. Like, I hear, like Backstreet Boys, and I think to myself, I've never actually put this song on, like, voluntarily, but any of these songs that you grew up with, they stay with you forever, and you know all the words. So I think it was just an involuntary reaction to hearing a song that you've heard thousands of times before. And I don't know, I had no problem with it. I think there's some hardos that are like, stay in the game. He should be focused. No distractions. I mean, we're all human.
I was wondering where those people were. I didn't look for them.
I didn't really see it.
I
I
haven't
didn't see
seen them.
that.
So maybe Twitter for social media for a minute was somewhat good-natured and not as psycho as it normally is. Dare to dream. We will hear from Monty in just a minute. As I said, we're going to be spending a lot of time in St. Louis, both from the Blues side of things with Jeremy Rutherford, as well as Murat, who's going to join us a little bit later on the program. But Remo, let's quickly get to last night's game. I was, of course, out watching both of the late games. And as the overtime was getting going in Colorado between the Stars and Avalanche, the Oilers were just finishing up getting pasted, and you did text me saying, will you be watching OT or listening to the Edmonton Sports Talk postgame?
Yes.
Well, I sort of did both. I pulled it up on my phone while I watched it, and oh, yikes, man. The Oilers are in a bad place. You thought maybe they would have some real momentum coming out of that stirring comeback, although they lost game one. Not even close. The team that still has the offensive juice and the momentum in the series is the Los Angeles Kings. And, even when Edmonton got that second goal and made it somewhat close, LA kept their foot on the gas. Oilers defense, if you look at the defending in that series, at least from the Edmonton side of things, it looks like maybe a different league than what we're watching between Winnipeg and St. Louis right now. They have two of the best players in the world. They're getting AHL level goaltending right now. The team is not helping out their goaltender at all, and they're having a tough time scoring goals, or at least they were last night against the Los Angeles Kings. Connor McDavid held off the score sheet. That's going to be a desperate team coming back for Game 3 in Edmonton.
I'm curious, how are they going to respond to Edmonton and this Stanley Cup final follow-up season not going as well as they would have hoped. I think it goes to the offseason. They took a big L not matching on Holloway and Broberg and bringing in Skinner, who is a healthy scratch, and Victor Arvidsson, who did score last night. The Ekholm injury really hurting them, and as you mentioned, the power play not quite there, 0 for 3 yesterday. And I know a lot of people are getting on Stuart Skinner, but where's the defense? You're letting in Adrian Kempe, their top scorer, just go in and shoot. No one's around him. Just let Quinton Byfield walk to the net and go roof. Easy to blame the goaltending, but I think there's some bigger issues at play. Yeah, could Stuart Skinner have been better? Probably, but they need some help on defense here, and I just don't know if Edmonton has the depth that he did last season. And without Ekholm, that's a huge part of their defense. LA at home, they've been the top home team in the league. We saw it a couple of weeks ago, so we'll see how they look on the road to Edmonton. The crowd there is going to be fired up, but not in a good spot for the defending Western Conference champions.
No. Like we often say, like our chat can get crazy. The chat on Edmonton Sports Talk on Gazola's postgame show last night was a 5-alarm fire right now. And I said to Dusty when we did Lock Shop yesterday, this is going one of two ways. The team is either going to play well, build off the third period in game one, get a win, come back 1-1, and everyone will be looking ahead to round 2, or it will be the end of the world. And it felt like that for Oiler fans for Lance last night. I'll tell you what, Remo, from a Jets fan perspective, It's been so much fun watching this Dallas-Colorado series. First things first, Gabe Landeskog coming back last night, one of the most incredible comebacks in NHL history. 3 years away from the game. The last time he played in a National Hockey League game, it finished with him getting handed the Stanley Cup by Gary Bettman. And he made his return to the ice last night. Pretty emotional at the beginning of the game. I thought the Avs fans and organization did an amazing job. That massive banner they unrolled, welcome back cap, was so cool. And it was awesome to see him out there just from a human interest story. For the Avs perspective, it would have been nicer to get that win because for the second straight game, the Dallas Stars tied the game, got it to overtime, and won in extra time. And what a bizarre stat, Remis. Dallas up 2-1 in the series. They have been leading for a grand total of 1 minute and 3 seconds in the entire series. But we knew that both of these teams were really good. We knew that this should be a long, tough series. And from a Jets perspective, you just wanted it to go the distance with lots of overtime. And that's sort of the way it looks so far right now through 3 games.
It's kind of fun watching this from afar. And I do wonder, I should do this as a poll, Huss, like who would you rather face if you're the Jets, Colorado or Dallas? Doesn't matter. Someone asked me yesterday, and the Jets handled Dallas pretty well this year. They also handled Colorado pretty well during the regular season this year and even last year, but it was the playoffs. Every time McKinnon and Makar had the puck, you kind of started shaking a little. And credit to Dallas, who wasn't playing that great, who hasn't led, as you mentioned, for a lot of the series at all, but hey, they found a way to win in overtime and killing that 4-minute penalty. Full credit to their penalty kill. You think, 4-minute penalty against the Avs, the end of the third period and start of overtime, they're screwed. They're done. I know Charles Barkley certainly thought the Avs had it in the bag.
Did you see that? Did you see when he went on? I watched that entire segment. Oh, my God. Barkley obviously had bet the Avs last night.
He said that he did.
Yeah, and he had bet the Oilers as well. And he was there after doing his NBA thing. He's got the tie undone and just walks on to the NHL on TNT set with Biz and Anson Carter and the boys and chopped it up for a bit. Really, really funny stuff. You can probably find it on social media. I would like to get Charles's take on the Jets and the Blues series. Maybe we'll get that at some point as we continue through the series. But those are the 2 big games last night late. The Montreal Canadiens, they continue to fight. They continue to hang in these games. But the Washington Capitals showing that they're just, at least so far through this series, just a bit better than Montreal. I think for a lot of Jet fans, the story watching that game last night was the fact that Patrick Laine had his ass stapled to the bench for the entire third period last night, Reem. And, if you saw Laine early on, listen, most of us have seen so much of Patrick Laine's career, including the best of it. This young man came here, blew up the city, took the league by storm, 80 goals as a teenager. But as we saw towards the end, at some point, Patrick Laine it looks lost. And then bad things happen. And that's exactly what was happening last night. It seemed the puck was going to him, and that's where it was going to die. And Marty St. Louis said, hey, this is the playoffs. We got other guys that are playing better, and we're going to roll with them. I'm fascinated to see if he's in the lineup for game number 3 and if that Bell Center atmosphere and a chance for redemption after a pretty public embarrassment last night for Laine gets the best out of him, or whether he's sort of an afterthought for the Habs as they continue this series.
Yeah, and you saw that here with Laine, where he would go on a crazy heater. He'd go in a slump and say, hockey's really hard for me right now. It's not going. And then he'd go back on another heater. And for Montreal, if you're in a situation where it's a must-win in a playoff situation, Martin St. Louis felt like he couldn't really trust Patrick Laine. You weren't really sure what he was getting from him. And maybe he received the message and he can bounce back and have a nice performance at home, because it's going to be crazy at the Bell Center for game 3. But, you thought this guy had such a promising career, the start in his first couple of years here. And I it hasn't really had that straight upward trajectory that you thought. There's definitely been a lot of ups and downs, and the last couple of years, since getting traded a couple times on ice, just the performance hasn't been what it was in his first few years here in Winnipeg.
No, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I think, I'll speak for a large percentage of Jet fans. Just, hope that we can see more of the brilliance of Laine that we saw early on in his time here in Winnipeg, because it's not happening right now. And, that, he has so much more to give if he is at his best. Listen, we're going to hear from Jim Montgomery in just a moment. His team, the St. Louis Blues, completed their morning skate about an hour ago. Before we do that, big thanks to our friends at Rolly's Transfer for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Family owned and operated for over 60 years right here in Winnipeg. Rolly's is the most trusted name in moving services in Manitoba. If you're planning on a move coming up, give our friends at Rolly's a holler or head on over to their website at rollys.com. Click on Request an Estimate. Put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and let them know when and where you're planning on moving and what needs to be moved, and the friendly staff at Rolly's will turn it around quickly, get you a great quote, and get you locked in to receive the white glove treatment and service that Rolly's is famous for. Now into their 7th decade moving Manitobans, Rolly's Transfer. Find out more, request an estimate today over at rollys.com. This has been a rough series. We haven't seen any fights, but as you know, there's always a tooth or two that ends up on the ground in the Stanley Cup playoffs. If you have dental repair necessary, or maybe just a spring cleaning, a checkup, why don't you pop by and see our pal Dr. Terry and his wonderful staff at the St. Vital Dental Center. They're located at 167 St. Anne's, beautiful new facility with a free parking conveniently located in the back, state-of-the-art equipment, and, of course, a full array of dental services for patients from 6 months to 99 plus, with everything from cleanings, checkups, fillings, root canals, all the way to things like dental implants. You can find out more and get you and your family in for an appointment to see Dr. Terry and the rest of the team at St. Vital Dental Center online at stvitaldental.ca. And again, they're at 167 St. Anne's. I had a great chat with our pal James from Canadian Club today. They're getting ready for the summer. And we've been waiting for the new launch of the Canadian Club ready-to-drink cocktails in cans. Now, of course, man, I don't know how many of those Canadian Club ginger ales went down at Princess Auto Stadium last year, but they are back, and they're part of a mixer pack that has 3 new flavors, including a half and a half, like an Arnold Palmer. So we're going to be getting our hands on those, trying a few of them, and definitely keep your eyes out at your local Manitoba liquor marts. And as we continue to support Canadian, no easier way to do that than with the original Canadian whiskey since 1848, Canadian Club. Pick Canadian Club 100% rye, Canadian Club Classic, the standard in Canadian whiskey on your next trip over to your Manitoba liquor marts. And hey, we've seen a lot of juice in the Jets battery so far in the playoffs. If you need batteries as you get ready for spring, and dare we look ahead to summer, Manitoba Battery's the spot for all of your battery needs. Shop local, get the best prices in town, period. Beating the pants off the big box stores every day of the week. And with the best customer service as well at both Logan Avenue and Dovercourt Drive in-store, or Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery will deliver those batteries to you for free with any purchase over $60. It is just that easy. Shop local and save money with Manitoba Battery. Give them a call today, see them in-store, or order online at manitobabattery.com. All right, before we welcome in Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic, let's hear what Monty had to say as his team will look to get back in this series with a win on home ice tonight. 11D out there. Ryan Suter was a 7th defenseman at times. Here's what Monty said on whether he'll go 11-7 tonight.
You mentioned yesterday that you really liked the 11-7 in Game 2. Is that your plan to go with it again tonight?
I'll find out tonight at 8:50.
Still in good spirits. I think it looks like he's still got that outfield song in his head.
I'll say my takeaway from this was he just confirmed to everyone that they list the start time at 8:30, but don't drop the puck till 8:50. Thanks a lot, NHL. Why do they do this?
We all
Hustler.
know. Well, they do that so the first game can end, and then you can move into it. So people like you aren't complaining, I want to watch the Jets, but there's a great 10 minutes left of this other game. So it is a little, shall we say, it's sketchy that they say 8:30, but we all know it's going to be 8:52, and that's when the puck drop. Here's Montgomery on the tough decisions that he has to make going into Game 3.
What kind of difficult decisions do you have defensively if you stick to 6? I mean, you could have a guy like Ryan Suter, looks like might be out, a veteran who's played all year. Like, how tough are those decisions?
8:35. If you text me, I'll give you the response. It doesn't matter who you sit at this time of the year. Everybody has helped you get to the playoffs. There's 16 teams that are no longer competing. Everybody in that room has helped us get to this point. And the guys that are going to play tonight are the guys that I feel give us the best opportunity to win our first game in the playoffs.
So there's Jim Montgomery. We'll have a little bit more of Monty coming up, but we're going to head to St. Louis right away. Heading into that, we are really excited to have KFC Canada, a Winnipeg fan favorite, on board as a playoff partner on Winnipeg Sports Talk. KFC Canada, also an official partner of the Winnipeg Jets, and is committed to providing Jet fans a delicious game day experience with exclusive finger-licking good promotions they're proud to bring to the Canada Life Center. On Jets game days, heads up, today's a game day. KFC Canada giving away their Big Crunch Chicken Sandwich for just $4.95 at participating Winnipeg KFC locations to help Jet fans enjoy the game with a big hit. And when we're back at Canada Life Center as this series continues and the playoffs continues, don't forget KFC, those chicken fingers, fries, now available throughout Canada Life Center. All right, to the Lou we go. And welcome in Jeremy Rutherford, senior writer for The Athletic, covering the St. Louis Blues. You should check out The Athletic's recently launched Red Light newsletter. The Athletic's deep roster of NHL reporters bring you the latest on NHL playoffs and more, delivered straight to your inbox. Our pal Murat is going to join us a little later on. And JR joins us right now from sunny St. Louis. Jeremy, thanks so much for doing this. How are you?
Good, yeah, thank you. Yeah, we got some sun behind us. Hopefully, no St. Louisans will be honking their horns at each other so we can get through the interview with some of that. But thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, it's great to have you on. I mean, especially right now when Winnipeg and St. Louis are going at it. Listen, we'll get to Monty from today and what we're looking at for Game 3 in a moment. But I'm interested in your perspective on these two games, which for my money have been two of the best playoff games we've seen yet. And, it's a tough situation for the Blues coming back because, to be honest, they have played at a very, very high level and, against a lot of other teams probably would be in a different situation. But the Jets have just come up huge in the third period in these first two games at home.
Yeah, I really do believe that the Blues could possibly be in a different position if it were another opponent because the Jets' top players obviously have stepped up in the third period and won both of these games. I think that the Blues have played really well for big portions of the game, especially the first two periods, but they've put themselves out of position or not won a board battle, and you can't do that against the Kyle Connors of the world and Mark Scheifele. So, Winnipeg definitely deserving of the wins in the first two games, but I feel like that with a couple of things went a couple different ways, the Blues could have come away with a split in Winnipeg.
And we shouldn't be surprised at this. I mean, the Jets, I think, body of work speaks for itself through the 82 games, but we all know the playoffs are different, and I think a lot of people were waiting to see, what's this Jets team going to look like in the playoffs? We remember what happened against Colorado. Through two games, they have been that team that they have been through 82. But, Jerry, maybe the most impressive part of how they've done it is in those third periods. I mean, 2 shots against in game number 1. And after scoring the go-ahead goal very early in the third period, still, I mean, using that defensive structure to only allow 5 shots on Connor Hellebuyck. And this after the Jets ended that 12-game winning streak by limiting them to just 15. I mean, how concerning is it from a St. Louis side of things that despite how hard they're playing, they're just not able to generate much, especially the later the game goes on?
Yeah, I think it's concerning when you look at it from the vantage point that the third period has been the Blues' strength since they've turned this around since the Four Nations tournament. I had the numbers in my story a couple days ago. The Blues 18-0 when leading or tied in the third period, going into the third period. The last 3 times they've lost a game in which they led or were tied in the third period have all been to the Jets. So give the Jets credit for what they've been able to find in the third period and muster a lot more than the Blues. So I think when you are starting to talk about taking away one of a team's strengths, one of the few that maybe the Blues thought they might have in this postseason, you're talking about a team that's better than you, not only on paper, but performing better than you in the third period.
In your latest in The Athletic, I mean, pretty straightforward. The Blues need more offense, not just home ice advantage to win Game 3. What are the keys and what will they be trying to do tonight, and whether that'll include different matchups or just a different attack on a Winnipeg team that has done such a good job of preventing pucks going in their own net?
I talked to Pavel Buchnevich about this a little bit. He's one of the number of Blues top 6 forwards who doesn't have a single 5-on-5 point in this series so far. They all don't. And when you talk about Thomas, Kyrou, Buchnevich, so on and so forth. I talked to him, and he said that they're bunched up too much in the offensive zone. You have 3 forwards all in the corner, all in the wall. If the D does get the puck, they're not able to separate the Jets because the Blues aren't separating themselves. So that's what his number one thing is. I think one of the tweaks that the Blues will try to manufacture tonight is to, when you get into the zone, have the cutback that we've all seen before, try to curl around. They did some of this in the morning skate today, and maybe get the puck back out to the point, try to separate the Jets, and then try to get some zone time that way. That's the bottom line, is they have not been able to sustain any zone time so far in this series.
You know, the both of the games, they've had very different kind of, I just shouldn't say different vibes. I mean, the atmosphere has been incredible, but it did seem like, there was some nerves on Winnipeg's part in that first game. And, certainly when, 3 goals go in on 10 shots on Connor Hellebuyck, in Winnipeg, from a road team's perspective in a best of 7, you think that is our shot. The game to me really turned on the Kyrou breakaway where Hellebuyck made that save. And then his confidence got more. And then obviously we know what the Jets did afterwards. But did the Blues feel like maybe they let that one get away? And how do you put that in the rearview mirror, knowing that it doesn't really matter once you're dropping the puck now on a new game?
Yeah, I think if you had to pick a game that the Blues could have come away from Winnipeg with the split, it would have obviously been Game 1. It was interesting, and it's interesting that you point out that Hellebuyck save on Kyrou on the breakaway, because we asked Jim Montgomery that after the game, what if he scores there? And he said, the way we played in the third period, I don't know if we still win, even if you're up 4-2. So the bottom line is you can't put 2 shots up in a period, the third period, against the Winnipeg Jets and expect to win. Winnipeg took over in that third period. So, do the Blues feel down and out? I'd like to tell you, yeah, this is a team that's going to have a tough time crawling out of a 2-0 hole against a team that won the President's Trophy. However, I was somebody who doubted this Blues team when they came back from the Four Nations tournament. And what they do, they put up the most points in the entire league and scored the most goals in the entire league the rest of the way. So, Jim Montgomery, he's a tactician. They've made some tweaks in Game 2. They'll make some more here in Game 3. I feel like you'll see a stronger performance from the Blues in front of their home fans. Will it be enough, though, against this Jets team that just keeps coming at you?
You mentioned that, and I'm not sure. It's a unique series that we haven't seen before with these 2 days off in between games. We were just playing some of Monty from earlier today. He seemed to be in pretty good spirits. He was cracking a few, although not giving you guys much. Fill us in on how the team reacted to the Game 2 loss, and kind of the vibes around that team and really their fan base, I guess, heading into tonight with a couple extra days removed from Game 2.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of this. I think that the Blues, they're in a retool. They've said that themselves. I think that going into the Four Nations break, they were 8 points out behind Vancouver's second wild card. So you're thinking, okay, well, this isn't the year they're going to be in the playoffs. And then all of a sudden they turned it around, as I mentioned. And I think everybody, even going into the Winnipeg series, thought that, okay, at the very least, this is going to be good playoff experience, for the Blues, like a Zach Bolduc, a Jake Neighbors, now a Jimmy Snuggerud, these types of guys. But then when you play Winnipeg pretty tight, 2 one-goal games, you throw out the empty netter, they feel like they're in this series. And so even though you look at that top line and what they've been able to do to the Blues, and do the Blues have the answer? Maybe not. If a Robert Thomas is dinged up and not at 100%, he's your guy who can defend that top line, and he's not getting the job done, regardless of if he's injured or not. How can they come out on top? So I think they still feel good about things, but again, I think the audience is split here in St. Louis in terms of, can they really get back in this series, or are in a week we're going to talk about the Blues gave it a good effort, but they just came away with it with some valuable playoff experience.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm sure to a lot of people that follow that team, they're sort of playing with house money, being in the position that they are, because I mean, a lot of people, had them written off early on in the season, and I can't really blame them considering where they were. But, it's just, there is an element, though. It is so tough to play at that level that they played for so long. I kind of wonder whether it was that incredible run that sort of came to an end on April 3rd in Winnipeg, and they're trying to find it again right now against one of the toughest teams to play against in the NHL.
Yeah, they are. I think that people looked at that regular season game in Winnipeg that, yes, Winnipeg deserved to win it. Blues didn't have Jordan Binnington in that game, and he's so critical, as you know, with his puck handling behind the net. Winnipeg's been forced to, try to tweak things.
Hofer's no slouch, though, doing that, I have to say.
Oh, he's not. But I feel like, and I'm trying to be objective when I say this, Binnington's got to be top 3 or 4 in the league with the way he handles the puck. But you're right, Joel Hofer's got a bright future doing that as well. But also, they were just getting used to playing without Dylan Holloway in that game and against Winnipeg, and now I think it's kind of a foregone conclusion that you're not going to see Dylan Holloway back in there. So I think you're right. Blues fans probably feel that they're playing with house money, but now seeing what it looks like, knowing what Holloway could do to help this team, I feel like they have looked at it as a closer series than they probably anticipated, though it's 2-0.
It's funny you bring up Holloway because he is missed. And listen, the Jets are missing Ehlers and Velarde. I mean, This happens in the playoffs. But Jeremy, I do a show every day with the guys out in Edmonton, and Tom Gazzola was on with us yesterday, and I didn't mean to poke the bear, but I did say, hey, Tommy, by the way, what percentage of days would you say, even now, that Holloway and Broberg are brought up in the Edmonton Sports Talk chats? And he said every single day. And you look at some of the guys that they spent their money on and put themselves in that position, to leave them vulnerable to Doug Armstrong and the offer sheet and the way that worked out. I mean, we'll be talking about that for years, but specifically to the Blues and Holloway, he really did have a monster breakout season, and they do miss his juice. It puts a lot on Jimmy Snuggerud, who's just getting his feet wet as an NHLer to produce in the top 6.
Yeah, 26 goals for Dylan Holloway. And to your point about Edmonton, yeah, it's tough. Every time during the regular season that I would tweet, here's a Holloway goal from Broberg, I would say, close your eyes, Edmonton fans. Because, it's hard because those two really did get away, and that probably shouldn't have happened. But it has been good for the Blues, obviously. And they sorely miss Dylan Holloway. It's beyond the offense. It's his physicality. It's his speed. It's his tenacity. I mean, Dylan Holloway, he's got a number situations this year where maybe he didn't show up on the score sheet, but his grit, his determination in the defensive zone is what initiated some of the plays that ended up in a Robert Thomas goal and Jordan Kyrou goal. And so he's sorely missed. But like you said, throughout the playoffs, just like Winnipeg with Velarde and Ehlers, you're missing guys and you just got to move on.
How banged up is Robert Thomas right now? I mean, the guy was just absolutely tearing up the league as the season went on. It was such a big part of that streak that the Blues went on. Noticed that he wasn't out yesterday. They're trying to let him rest as much as possible. I mean, it seems that he's playing through something.
Yeah, I don't know what percentage to put on him, but in the final game of the regular season, It was a face-off, and he took a stick in the leg area, the butt end of the stick. It didn't look like anything. It looked harmless. Did he tweak something on that play? He didn't come back. They were up 5-1 on Utah at the time, so precautionary, he didn't return. But you're right. He's sat out some practices here lately. They obviously call them maintenance days. But, you watch him, and he just doesn't look as dynamic as he was. I think it was a 12-game point streak down the stretch. He was their bread and butter. He's been their best player, maybe not as consistent as Holloway, but their best player all year. And he just doesn't look like that type of guy. And we see the numbers. My colleague Murat at the Athletic had some numbers of Thomas against that Scheifele line in the regular season, and they're pretty favorable for Thomas, but that has not been the case in the 2 games in Winnipeg.
He at times has been with Jordan Kyrou. Kyrou's kind of been on that other line so far. I have to ask, is Kyrou okay? Like that hit by Logan Stanley was just one of those moments that everyone will remember from the game. It was amazing to see him come back out in that same period and be out there for that power play that they scored at the end. He did seem to be a little quiet. Maybe that was just the Jets playing really well defensively. I mean, there was a lot of guys that were, but what was the aftermath of that? And did he have anything to say about that afterwards?
I know. I thought they were going to put police tape on the ice and put a spray paint a red line around. It was just that hit. I mean, I said this a couple days ago in St. Louis on the radio station that you didn't even need the microphones down at ice level. Like you could hear the crunch from the press box there at Canada Life. So he came out of it super impressive. Like if I was him, I'd be carrying video around of that hit everywhere and just saying, "Hey, look, I got through this right here." But he was quiet the rest of the game. It's hard to say, like you said, is that him thinking about what he just went through and trying to avoid it again? You would think that the couple days off would be a reset and back home. Maybe the Jordan Kyrou that Blues fans have come to know in this season played really well this year. But that was a heavy duty hit, of course.
Let's get back to Binnington for a minute. He, in a lot of ways, to me, you don't say this too often about goaltenders, but sort of the emotional leader in a lot of ways of the St. Louis Blues. He hasn't had, and neither of the Blues have a lot of success against Winnipeg, despite the fact that he can get as hot as anybody in the league. What have you thought about Binnington through 2 games, and where is he at heading into a really important game at home tonight?
Yeah, I think he's been pretty good. We saw him at the Four Nations, right? Canada did, and he was electric there in that gold medal game. And I think he rode that when he got back to St. Louis, really had a lot of confidence. I want to say he's up to 11, 12 straight wins at home, so he's really dialed in at home. And in the series, maybe there's one goal that he'd like to have back, but I think for the most part, those have been some high-end plays by Scheifele and Connor, and not too sure how many goalies would have stopped those. So, has he been a complete difference maker? I think he has been at times during games 1 and 2 where he kept it a 1-goal game and kept the Blues with a chance to get back into it. They just haven't had the offense. So, I think if you had to list 3 or 4 issues the Blues have had this series, Jordan Binnington probably would not be on that list.
Jeremy Rutherford of The Athletic is with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. And they just launched the Red Light newsletter with Jeremy, our pal Murat, and the other great roster of Athletic writers. You can get that delivered straight into your inbox. Jeremy, one of the really interesting side stories of this series is, of course, the Schenn brothers going head-to-head. We've heard a lot from Luke. How's Braden doing? What's he had to say about playing his brother? And the fact that those two seem to be hitting each other every time they're out on the ice.
Yeah, this has got to be something for the family, obviously. And I got cut off by Braden a couple days ago after probably about a week of him answering questions about Luke and himself. I just said, so did you cut off the communication? I know you guys talk every day, you and your brother, but did you cut it off? And he said, hey, listen, at some point we got to make this series about the Blues and the Jets, right? So it's got to be tough for those guys to deal with all the questions. But yeah, they're going toe-to-toe, and to this point, I guess you give the upper hand to Luke and the Jets in terms of Braden not having a 5-on-5 point. But, I've seen Braden Schenn in these situations where people are doubting him, doubting the team, doubting his ability to be the captain of this team, and all of a sudden at the end of the night, you're talking about how he spurred them to a win. And so you can count on Braden Schenn in situations like these, and I'm sure he's got to get one up on his brother at one point here.
Well, I mean, listen, he's a heart and soul player, and they're going to need that tonight against a Jet team that has a lot of confidence playing on the road. They won more away from home than any team so far this year, and have been, as advertised in the playoffs after what they've done so far this year. I know you talked to Montgomery today. We heard a little bit this morning. And listen, he's not going to break it all out. But in your opinion, Jeremy, you know this team very well. You've seen the first two games. What are the keys for the St. Louis Blues to get back into this series and find a way to win tonight?
Yeah, and I don't want to be too cliche with this answer, but, they, like I said, after Four Nations, they led the league in scoring. And so they've just got to get in the offensive zone, and the Jets are making that really, really hard on them. So just watch some video the past couple of days, and, I'd instruct people, if they want to see this detail in the video, to check out Murat's story today. It's phenomenal just about the tweaks. Blues have to get out of their D zone. The Jets are using players right there at the wall at the offensive blue line to prevent that. The Blues have made some tweaks in terms of trying to break out with some speed. But if they don't get into the O-zone, it doesn't matter about getting shots on net and taking Hellebuck's eyes out of the picture. Like, you can't do that unless you get into the offensive zone, and haven't been able to do that a lot in this series. So again, not to be cliche, it's as basic as it gets when you talk about trying to win a playoff hockey game. But they have to get into the O-zone somehow, some way.
A busy building you got there in St. Louis. Tomorrow night is Brooks and Dunn. Saturday night, I think, is Cat Williams.
Cat Williams, right.
And then will you be going to both? I would imagine that the Venn diagram of Brooks and Dunn and Cat Williams fans is probably two separate circles, but I wonder if anyone's going to be doing the double dip.
I will not be there. I don't know how I should say this, but I have to be at that rink so many nights a year that I don't go on nights that I don't have to be. But yeah, I was wondering, looking at the schedule when it came out, like if Game 5 was going to be sometime in July with all the breaks that we've had here.
It's interesting. I mean, the league overall has kind of extended the first round. And, for both the Jets and Blues, especially with the way that these games have been played, I'm not sure that the extra day of rest won't be good for both teams and just good for the quality of hockey, because the one thing you can say is both of these teams are leaving it all out there and doing everything they can to pay the price to try to win these hockey games. The first two have been just phenomenal, and we're looking forward to this one tonight. Jeremy, before we go, and thanks again for coming on. It's always a pleasure to have you, especially while the Jets and Blues are at it. I mentioned that new Red Light newsletter. Fill people in a little bit on what you and the Athletic team have for hockey fans, not just here in Winnipeg or St. Louis, but around the league.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks for the opportunity. I know I've been at the Athletic since 2017, and they're always thinking of new ways to bring it to the people. And they've done it with the NBA, they've done it with Major League Baseball and the NFL, and now we're doing it with hockey. So we've got some of our best writers on top of this newsletter, and we're all going to contribute. Come straight to your inbox, and you'll just check out whatever everybody's talking about around the league, and no more important time than right now with the playoffs.
Jeremy, thanks so much for doing this. Say hi to Murat if you see him. He's going to be jumping on with us a little bit later on.
Awesome.
And should be a fun one tonight in St. Louis. And then, you go from a 9 p.m. game to noon on Sunday. I mean, never mind the days between these games. Times are all over the place. But the one thing, it seems like both of these teams have been ready to go in a big way with heavy first periods. And I don't expect any different tonight in St. Louis.
Yeah, I just turned 50 years old, so I like the noon start a lot better than this 8:52 start tonight.
Get your nap in, pal. Thanks for doing this.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Oh, great stuff. There's Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic. And again, we will have Murat Atesh come up, and we will hear from Scott Arniel as well as we continue to get ready for the big one tonight in St. Louis, just before 9 p.m. 8:52, they tell us. Puck drop tonight. There in St. Louis. Hey, I know a lot of people maybe did get down to St. Louis for these games. Maybe they'll be doing it later on when it comes to travel. Or maybe you're thinking about how you maximize your vacation time that is so precious to everyone that, has a regular job where you're there 5 days a week. Great friend of the program and WSTer, Sean from Let's Do It Travel, can help you stretch that travel dollar and make the best choices and decisions when it comes to holidays, all-inclusives, maybe the most important decision you'll ever make, guys. Where and how that destination wedding is going to go, as well as amazing sports trips that you might be looking at crossing off something that's been on your bucket trip your entire life. Sean at Let's Do It Travel can make sure you're getting the most of your vacation time and stretch your dollar further. What you're going to want to do is get on over to Instagram and follow Let's Do It Travel WPG, or check them out online at letsdoittravel.com. He actually had a great article this week at the website for Jet fans considering going down to St. Louis, and some hotel options and whatnot. But listen, not only is Sean a WST here, but he is offering for Let's Do It Travel to waive their booking fees for Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners. So if you're thinking about a big trip, if you're planning for next year, let Sean know that WST sent you, and he will set you up with some great service and help you get the most out of your trip and save money while you're doing it. You've got a buddy in the travel business with Let's Do It Travel, so get in touch today. It's been fun seeing the Whiteout Mania signs and the fans of the Winnipeg Jets dive into Whiteout Mania presented by Princess Auto. No better example of that is a reel on Winnipeg Sports Talk right now by Liz, who's just done such a great job connecting with fans. If you haven't seen the latest one, it's on the Jets' biggest rival, doing great numbers. A lot of people really liking it. But let's face it, this is the best and most fun time of the year. The fans of the Winnipeg Jets are fired up. You can get those Whiteout Mania signs for free by simply popping into your local Princess Auto, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, and yes, for you Jet fans out in the west part of the province, pop into Brandon and get hooked up there as well. Totally free. You just have to go in and grab them at your closest Princess Auto location. And for you fans that are making crazy costumes or decorating your house like the arena, or when your boys putting together some crazy hype song or video, send those in to winnipegjets.com/whiteoutmania, and you could be going to playoff games courtesy of the Jets and Princess Auto. Of course, Princess Auto, proud sponsors of the Jets, so many things in our local sports community, and Winnipeg Sports Talk. Shop online 24/7 at princessauto.com. We're going to be fishing pretty soon. Hopefully the Jets will still be playing. And listen, if you're thinking about an amazing fly-in fishing opportunity, a trip this summer, right here in the province where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge is the place. Cannot wait to get back out there. It's usually my favorite 3 or 4 days of the year. We'll be heading back up this summer. And if you are thinking about maybe changing your travel plans or giving Aikens a crack, go to aikenslake.com to find out all the information on everything available, as well as availability for the 2025 fishing season. aikenslake.com for that, and check them out on all their socials as well. And at Aikens Lake, Facebook, Instagram, X, you know the deal. And hey, folks, as we get ready for grad and wedding season, the fellas at F Apparel are busy right now. Probably did a bunch of white suits for a lot of crazies cheering on the Jets in the last couple games. But right now, as you get ready for grad, wedding season, and more, if you need to up your menswear game, head on down to F Apparel. Custom suits, chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles. The best selection of menswear accessories, and 2 great promos right now. If you've got a 2025 grad in the family, buy a suit, get a free shirt and tie from F Apparel. And of course, if you're getting ready for the big day and you're in a wedding party, great discounts for wedding parties when the guys gets their suits for the big day at F Apparel. Pop by and see them, 190 Smith Street downtown. And you can also check them out online and book an appointment coming up at EPHapparel.com. Let's get Remo back in here in a minute. Mike Murat is going to join us in just a few. Good stuff with Jeremy Rutherford. What a treat today to have 2 of the Athletics' finest, Jeremy, and then, of course, our pal Murat come on right in the middle of this Jets Blues series as we get ready for Game 3.
Yeah, great insight from Jeremy on Blues lineup decisions, how they're feeling, what they need to do better. We've looked at this series. It's been pretty close on the scoreboard. I think in the third period, it was funny to hear Jim Montgomery say that, hey, even if Carey does score in that breakaway, the way they played in the third, who knows? I mean, they really haven't shown up in the third period. They've shown up for the start of the game, for sure. Both of them really impressive. Hellebuyck shut the door in game one on them, and how's he going to continue to play? But it seems like the Jets, as these first two games have gone on, they've settled in more and more. And if it's a close game, they've shown they can, just take that extra step and go ahead, scoring, in the third period late in game one and, quickly into it in game two. So I am interested how the Blues are going to play at home. We know the Jets, one of the top home teams in the league, also the top road team. That's what happens when you're the President's Trophy winner. You win at home and
did a lot of winning.
They did a lot of winning throughout the year. So I'm curious, how is the Blues crowd going to impact it? And the Blues just returning home where they've been very good this season.
They'll be more comfortable. They'll be more comfortable there for sure. But I mean, the Jets have proven one thing, and that's their brand of hockey travels, and it travels very well. So that's why, I was just looking at Coolbet. The Jets a slight favorite right now, -118, and the Blues even money right now. We'll get to the full Coolbet lines, hit the NFL draft as well a little bit later on. Let's get back to the coaches, though. We do have Scott Arniel. I just want to get to a couple, though, of the other Jim Montgomery ones, in particular number 3. We kind of talked about this with Jeremy Rutherford. This is what Montgomery had to say on, what they need to do better to get back into this series and win a game tonight.
I think we got to play faster. I know every coach says that, and we've looked at ways that we think we can play faster. And the bottom line, though, there's got to be more of a determined attitude to not be denied getting to the hard areas that you need to score in.
All right, yeah, got to get to the hard areas where they need to score in. And that the Jets have been the team that's controlled the blue paint. I think that has been, a calling card of Winnipeg when they have played their best this year. And certainly the defensemen in their own end have done a good job with that. And the Jets, have taken it to the net. Mark Scheifele being a perfect example last game, getting on the board as well. Here's one more from Montgomery, and just the decision that he's juggling between going with 6 or 7 defensemen for tonight's game.
Yeah, well, it really helps us when we go 7D because we can always get the matchups we want in the D pairings, 5-on-5. Suter's a great penalty killer for us, so he's going to get more penalty killing minutes. In neutral zone situations, you're going to see Leddy a lot because he's really good in transition with his skating and his ability to make plays. And Tucker, will be getting D-zone and O-zone face-offs just because of the two elements I talked about previously. You're not going to juggle with your top 4 very much. And I also think it helps that if you get someone nicked up during the game, we have a lot of versatility back there, and anyone can move into the top 4 or top 2 or bottom 6, just depending on what happens.
All right, so there is Jim Montgomery on 6 versus 7D, and just the Blues focus going into their first home game of the series tonight. Let's head over to the Jets side of things. They just finished the morning skate in the last hour or so, and Scott Arniel met the media. And here's Arniel on how the Jets have been clearing the crease for Hellebuyck and helping him do his job at the level we're accustomed to.
Well, I think that's something that isn't just something we started now, in the start of the playoffs. We've often talked about, we got to get into people before they get to the net. It's a heck of a lot tougher to move it forward when he's already standing on top of Helly, and that's just something for us that, get into people as they're coming into the corners, as they're kind of moving. The other side, if we can't get body, then it's getting sticks, so that we can take those tips away. But I think that's something that over the course of the year that with Allard have done a really good job of paying attention to and being good at.
So there's Arniel on taking care of business in front of the net. Scott was also asked what he's thought about the Vladimir Metsnikov line 2, along with Perfetti and Niederreiter at this point. Here's what the coach had to say on that.
Yeah, I know Ehlers isn't there, but that's kind of been their MO all year, that they're not a liability on our end. They spend a lot of time. They're good off the rush. They spend a lot of time in the offensive zone, and I'd like to see them bury a couple, because they have been getting great opportunities, some great looks, and when you can do that, whoever they're playing against, if they can go out and zone time the opposition line, that obviously leads to positive momentum for us. And having Nino there, he's a big body, he gets around the net front and kind of creates havoc that way. So they eat minutes and they eat it in the right way, and hopefully they can get rewarded for it.
All right, so Scott Arniel on line number 2, who we spent some time talking about yesterday with Rewicki. Listen, if you've watched the Jets since the trade deadline, really, and the move of Morgan Barron to center, we've seen a player that is sort of seems like he's been unleashed. The speed and the size that he brings to the table is unique. He's been taking the puck to the net, been very, very effective in the role that he's been in right now. And Scott Arniel was just asked about the growth of Morgan Barron, what he's seen from him since moving to center.
Well, that was to be an experiment, and it's worked out well. We obviously, with the injuries to Coop and kind of down the middle, we weren't sure how things were going to work out, but he's a good skater, and we see him actually. It looks like he moves even better being in the middle of the ice. Probably because you're covering more ice as a centerman, and he's really good on faceoffs, and obviously knows the responsibility how to play without the puck. And to me, that he's really bought into the role, and I know he's excited about being in there, and that's just a bonus for us at this time of year.
All right, now something that wasn't brought up very much here, but if you think back, there's a lot of things that didn't go well for the Jets last year, and God knows we don't want to relitigate the 2024 playoffs, but Morgan Barron was not part of the group last year because he was injured. And, seeing what Morgan Barron's doing right now, Arniel was just asked about, the opportunity for Barron now, considering he, of course, was missing from the lineup last year against Colorado.
And that injury was big for us last year. But, he's a big, heavy guy. And this time of year, those are the type of guys that can help move the weight down the ice. And that's what he does, whether that's him getting hard on the forecheck, or that's him battling in the D zone, and being heavy, and to Murat's point of boxing people out, trying to get to the net. That's having that size certainly helps.
All right, so there's the coach, Scott Arniel. Puck drops tonight just before 9 p.m., 8:52 scheduled for the Jets and the St. Louis Blues. No changes to the lines. We'll have Connor, Scheifele, Iafallo going for Winnipeg. Nemetsnikov in between Nino and Perfetti, Lowry with Appleton and Brandon Tanev, and Morgan Barron in between Jad and David Gustafsson, Jared Anderson-Dolan, Toninato and Velarde, the extras. Velarde was out again today for the morning skate, still in the non-contact jersey. So, again, according to Scott Arniel, once we see the color of the jersey change, then we can start asking about a potential return to the playoffs, the Jets roster. That being said, with the way things are going right now, they can maybe feel the comfort of taking a little bit of extra time to make sure Gabe is as close to 100% as possible. On the blue line, Morrissey DeMello, Sandberg Pionk, and the big boys of the third pairing, Luke Shen, along with Logan Stanley. And no surprise who's starting in the net tonight for the Winnipeg Jets. That will be the Vezina and Hart Trophy favorite, Connor Hellebuck. As far as the Blues go, Robert Thomas, who missed yesterday the practice, is back in the middle with Buchnevich and Jimmy Snuggerud. Snuggerud and Jake Neighbors swapped spots after game number 1. Braden Shen in the middle of Neighbors and Kyrou for line number 2. Sundqvist with Bolduc on the right side and Texier on the left. And then Faxa, Walker, and Toropchenko as the fourth line. One of those players might be out, especially if they decide to go with Tucker and have Suter in the lineup and go 11-7. And to the surprise of absolutely nobody, Remis, just like for Connor Hellebuck, Jordan Binnington once again tending the net for the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, and Binnington, he's been pretty solid. I'm thinking of some big saves he made on Mason Appleton, Rob and Kyle Connor as well in game 1 before he scored. And goals have been hard to come by for the Jets, but the Jets with the 2-0 series lead, and we saw Binnington at the Four Nations absolutely robbing Team USA in overtime, and he's, as a former Stanley Cup champion, he's certainly capable of shutting the door. So not really any concerns with the way Binnington's played so far.
No, it's definitely been a well-played series by both teams, and I think both goaltenders have had big moments. But the Jets have been better and, taken and exerted their will in the third period, and that's why they're up 2-0. Murat has a new piece at The Athletic. Jets take 2-0 series lead into St. Louis. Storylines and adjustments to watch. Murat jumping on right away. This segment brought to you by our Prairie Toyota dealers. Good luck to everyone that entered in the contest. Contest is now closed for the autographed and signed Mark Scheifele and Connor Hellebuck jerseys, as well as the WST merch. We'll let you know who won in that. But your Prairie Toyota dealers want to remind you to get in and go with the Toyota Tundra. Quality that means it has the strength to take on any challenge, off-road or hauling a heavy load, and it's backed by the peace of mind knowing it's a Toyota. Take the road less traveled in comfort, room for teammates, friends, and gear. And for those of you with us on YouTube, can we talk about how good this truck looks? Like anywhere it goes, it can turn heads. Up from $154 weekly for 60 months at 5.19% APR with $66.99 down. Hybrid is available. Love to see that. You can find out more and hit them up online and visit shoptoyota.ca for more information on the amazing Toyota Tundra. All right, to St. Louis we go. And we welcome in, from The Athletic, Murat. Murat, this has been actually a real treat. I mean, a game day. We're talking St. Louis and Winnipeg. And we go back-to-back with two of The Athletic's best between Jeremy Rutherford and, of course, you now joining us from the Lou before tonight's game. It is great to have you back on the show.
Hey, it is great to be here. I'm a big Jeremy Rutherford fan myself. I think he's one of the best teammates in sport, or in sports writing, I should say. Just a great time. I'm working with him covering this series. Nobody has been kinder. So I'm fired up, just got back from the rink, whatever you want to get into. I mean, there's so much to talk about. Imagine Jets fans listening right now that you wake up tomorrow and it's 3-0 St. Louis on the brink of elimination. That is possible coming out of today. Let's get in all of it.
I mean, we talked about this with Jeremy, but I imagine, hopefully there'll be many submissions and inbox deliveries on the Red Light newsletter around the Winnipeg Jets from yours truly. Pretty awesome little movement for The Athletic to bring so many of the minds that bring us the stories of the National Hockey League from that Athletic roster all into a spot that comes into your inbox.
Yeah, we launched this newsletter. I think Myrtle and Down Goes Brown are at the head of it. So you know that it's organized and funny as heck. Down Goes Brown is one of the best that there is. I love it. You got the graphic up for those watching on YouTube. It is a really cool feature. And it's funny that we launched it, I think it was almost the same day, or at least within days. I had a comment on one of my stories saying, hey guys, Winnipeg just won the President's Trophy, or is about to win the President's Trophy. And the main Athletic newspaper was all about the Masters, or not newspaper, newsletter, like the daily feed into the inbox. So why not skip that? Why not make it all about the NHL, and why not make it the Red Light newsletter? I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see what they've got cooked up. And of course, I'll be happy to contribute to it as well, such that the Winnipeg Jets get their due.
Yes, well, hopefully there's going to be about 2 months of submissions to the Red Light newsletter about this hockey club. But it's been a great start so far. I mean, kicking off the Stanley Cup playoffs for the entire league in the whiteout, Saturday at 5 p.m., and then the two teams put on a show, Murat. And then we got more of the same in game number 2. I think about St. Louis's situation going back in, and I think they've got to feel like they have played very well. They've given their best shot. The Winnipeg Jets can demoralize teams, and they've done that in the third period of both of these games. It's been More of the same from the regular season, but we heard the Jets say that this is who they were, and they've done a pretty damn good job of showing that through 2 games.
Yeah, the Blues are such an ideal matchup for the Winnipeg Jets in a very specific way, which is that the Blues are almost a mirror image. They're almost a mirror image. They play similar defensive zone structure. They are as committed to their D zone. They do have some quality depth. They have some star power in the form of Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, Pavel Buchnevich. But I think if you go through the roster player by player, line by line, you find that Winnipeg's first line is a little bit better than St. Louis's first line. Second line, a little bit better. And every time that you look for an advantage Blues side, you find out that, well, hey, that's a strength of Winnipeg's game too. And that's, I think, what difference we've seen in this series. It's not that the flow of play is drastically different. In fact, as well as the Jets have finished, the Blues have started really well. And I think that Jim Montgomery has made some really good adjustments. And I wrote about that at The Athletic today. Weekend breakouts, making changes, all those sorts of things. I think that St. Louis is a really good team. But when the Jets get the handle on a game and they get rolling at 5-on-5, there's just too much to reckon with there. There's just too much to deal with, whether it's Scheifele and Connor each being able to find big game goals or just that overwhelming amount of depth where everybody in the middle six, the fourth line, and on through the defense is also playing exactly the right way. It's a great situation for the Jets to be in, stretched and pushed, but coming out ahead more often than not.
Murat, one of the things that you touched on in the your latest piece at The Athletic is, the matchups and the Thomas line versus the Scheifele line. And it doesn't seem like Scott Arniel fears that one, and it doesn't seem like the St. Louis Blues do either. Do you think we're going to continue seeing that? And what have you made of the top 2 lines going head-to-head? Scheifele certainly has exerted his name all over this series so far.
Yeah, you know what? I just asked Scott Arniel about that, before walking back here to talk to you guys. And it's a situation where he recognizes the same thing. Since Four Nations, the St. Louis Blues haven't been afraid of hiding Robert Thomas from anybody. And that includes February 26th here in St. Louis, where they had the last change as they do tonight. There was an awful lot of Scheifele versus Thomas. In that particular game, to be clear, Thomas actually got the better of things. He scored a 5-on-5 goal, a 4-on-4 goal as well. That line actually made it really hard for the Jets. Over the course of the regular season, Thomas's line won the matchup as well. But that script has been completely flipped in the playoffs. Both plays pretty close. But whenever you need a big moment, you found that Scheifele is finding space in the middle. He's making incredible plays off the wall and from below the goal line. And they're finding low to high passes or low to slot passes to players like Kyle Connor. You saw it for the game-winning goal off of the set play. You see it all of the time. They're getting to the most dangerous places on the ice at the most important times. And they've been the difference so far. I like, for St. Louis's sake, that their flow of play is okay. But when I think about the Winnipeg Jets and where they're playing, and I said this to Arniel too, it really feels like Scheifele and Connor are going to find their moment in any given game this series.
Well, shots and quality scoring chances have been hard to come by. But I know you kind of get into this in the piece, with some heat maps. But how would you describe the shots and scoring opportunity locations between what Winnipeg has been able to generate and what St. Louis has been able to generate through 2 games?
Yeah, as by and large, on the whole, one team is getting to the blue paint. One team is getting to the center slot. One team is getting consistently to the most dangerous areas of the ice, and that's the Winnipeg Jets. You've seen it for goals that have gone in. You've seen it for scoring chances that have been stopped. There you go. For those watching, you can see it right there. And that's partly because they're just spending more time in the offensive zone, period. That helps more slot shots happen. It's also partly because players like Scheifele have gone to work on the walls and then brought the puck into the middle of the ice with really great passes after that. I think I saw a stat that says Kyle Connor leads NHL players in slot passes received. Well, you know who's making those. That's Mark Scheifele. You also get the second, third, fourth lines of the Winnipeg Jets just steamrolling their way to the middle of the ice when the opportunity is available. Speaking with Jim Montgomery just a moment ago, He does not love the fact that Winnipeg has that advantage, and he's preaching more of that. He wants more of what Winnipeg's been doing, except from his St. Louis Blues.
Let's kind of go into the Jets' defensive end. I think there's a lot of guys that would be on this list, but where do you dole out the credit for the Jets being so effective at preventing the Blues from doing what Winnipeg's been able to do in front of Binnington?
Yeah, well, if you went into this series and had to guess who would lead the Jets' D-corps in 5-on-5 minutes, you might not have guessed Dylan Samberg, right? And especially going back to the offseason thinking, well, who's going to be there in the playoffs? Dylan Samberg was, hey, can he play in the top four or not? And all the evidence said probably. There's a lot of reports that say that, but the level of success that he's had, I think, has been an enormous story through the first couple games of round one. One of the things that he's been phenomenal at, knocking plays down at the Jets' blue line before that St. Louis can even get established in the offensive zone. I saw from Garrett Hull that zone entry denials, Dylan Samberg leads the Jets by a country mile. It's also that he's winning his battles in the middle of the ice. It's also that he's getting the puck up ice when he has the opportunity to do that as well. I think we've seen a defensive masterclass in a lot of ways from Dylan Samberg so far. Offensively, I've liked the way that Josh Morrissey has cooked. You haven't seen him explode points-wise, but there are moments he's putting his fingerprints all over the game. Those are the two. I think that Winnipeg's number one and number two left-hand defensemen are as good as it gets and playing as good as it gets in the NHL right now.
I really like Pionk's game, particularly in game two, but I want to ask you about the Stanley Schenn pairing. Listen, Logan Stanley had the hit that was heard around the National Hockey League, and that was sort of the showstopper. But when you dig a little deeper, how are Stanley and Schenn doing together, and what have the numbers looked like for them through 2 games of the series?
Yeah, if you look at expected goals and you use it as a metric of, hey, where are the grade A's coming from, that pairing's done really well so far this series. And it's, a testament to Luke Schenn's versatility and all of the things that he does. Logan Stanley has kept mostly clean. There's one play I'll point out in a moment that I don't want to take away from the overall Stanley arc of that big hit and all those other things. But I think they've gotten away with a couple of things as well. At the same time, they're winning the flow of play. At home ice, Scott Arniel and company did a great job of keeping them more or less away from the Jets' star players. That may change now. We talked about the forward matchups, how Scheifele Thomas, while the Blues aren't afraid of it, the Jets aren't afraid of it. You might find a little bit more leaning on St. Louis trying to get Kyrou against Stanley and trying to get Robert Thomas against him as well.
Do you think Kyrou wants to be out there when Stanley's on anymore?
I mean, if he's worth his salt, he will want to go back at him with his pace. But I would understand the fear. I would understand thinking, hey, I put my head down. I was worried about Adam Lowry, and then Stanley knocked me into next week. Like, those are visceral things that you and I don't get to experience, and I wouldn't be surprised if that lasts for a little bit. At the same time, Kyrou's also been one of the Blues' best players. He's been so quick. He's been one of the players that can actually get into the offensive zone and maybe make a step around some of the Jets blue liners, including Stanley, including Pionk, including some of the some real quality players. So yeah, despite how fun it is, that hit, despite how great it is for Stanley, despite the read that he makes, everything that you love about it, if Kyrou's afraid, that's a problem for him. And I would hope that he has the confidence to get back out there and go out.
Hey, credit where credit is due. I could not believe that he was back on the ice later on in that period. And, granted, he was maybe a little quieter than he'd been in game 1 in periods 2 and 3. And some people will say that's because of the hit. Some people will say that has nothing to do with it. I just got to respect the guy that got blown up like that and really looked like he was in some significant discomfort coming back to the bench, getting back out there for his team, knowing how important he is to the Blues' chances of scoring goals.
He probably couldn't breathe for a couple of seconds there, to be honest, right? Imagine getting hit that hard. He probably was struggling with his lungs.
I don't know what I would do. Well, I probably would just spend a lot of time on the ice and hope that the paramedics could come and scrape me off the ice. One of the goals that, as we talked about, Montgomery will be looking for is to get more traffic in front of Hellebuck. Do you think that will come from trying to attack the Jets in different ways, potentially with different personnel of some of the matchups that we saw when Scott Arniel had the last change north of the border?
I was just talking to Jake Neighbors about that. Sort of after the scrums had ended, we got into it a bit. And he says that it's kind of on every single one of them. And the St. Louis Blues aren't really happy with their spacing right now. JR wrote to this effect. If you read Jeremy Rutherford today, he was writing about it, where they're getting a bit bunched up. And Winnipeg's been able to outnumber the Blues on the walls. So what St. Louis wants to do tonight is they want to get that puck off the wall way faster. They want to get it to the points. They want to create situations where, whether it's off of a board play or off of an entry, a cutback, and then a pass to the point, they want to get the puck to the points as often as possible. And they want to feel a whole lot more connected in terms of, as soon as the Blues forwards get that puck to a shooting location, they want to be hightailing it for the net at that point. They don't feel like they've done a good enough job at that. They don't think that their timing has been there. They get to the net, they get out-muscled by a Jets defenseman, get tired, and then the puck doesn't come. Or the puck does come, and the Jets have boxed out so well that the Blues haven't been able to get at it. I'm going to say from my conversations that I had, it sounds like that's number one. Doesn't matter who the lineup is, doesn't matter what the matchup is. They want two players going to the net at all times, but at the right time, as soon as that puck is coming through from the point. And if they can get it, they'll feel connected. They'll feel like they have shots at double deflections and all that sort of things. But Huss, as I look at their roster up and down, and I look at what Colorado had last year with Nichushkin and Lehkonen and all that sort of stuff, I'm like, I don't know if that's it's a great play against any team, but I don't know if St. Louis has the weapons to pick Winnipeg apart the way Colorado did last year.
Murat, the goaltending matchup's fascinating in this. We saw these two guys representing their countries go at it at the Four Nations. I don't know how many head-to-head matchups they've had over their time in the Central Division, but there's been a ton of them. And both goalies playing the puck has been impactful. I mean, Hellebuck's puck handling in relation to 2 or 3 years ago has done a complete 180 and is now more a benefit than something that was maybe holding him back. But as we talked with JR a few minutes ago, Binnington is one of the truly elite puck handling goaltenders in the league. From a Jets perspective, what are they looking to do, whether it be on the dump-ins, on forechecks? How can they maybe make it a little more difficult for Binnington to be part of a successful and quick St. Louis breakout the other way?
Yeah, great question. That's something that has worked for St. Louis at times, where Binnington is like an extra defenseman out there. He deserves that respect as a puck handling goaltender. And I think of the chance that Robert Thomas got within the first minute of game 2, where it was a soft dump in. It went to Binnington. He had time to control it. Alex Iafallo is Winnipeg's first forechecker, but Binnington makes that pass so well and so easily. He gets the puck up ice past Iafallo with pass number 1. Because the pass is so clean, Scheifele is over there, but he doesn't have time to get on to Cam Fowler, who picks that puck up, and all of a sudden 2 Winnipeg Jets forwards are beat. The next step of that is that the St. Louis Blues were sick to death of Winnipeg's defensemen pinching up the boards and taking pucks away from them on their breakouts. So they added another wrinkle where they fired the puck up from Fowler, up the boards to Buchnevich, and instead of trying to make a play himself, he bumped it back to Thomas and they went up the ice. You can't do that if your goaltender doesn't start that play with all kinds of time and space. So I would say you're going to see more diagonal dump-ins off the corner and ideally bouncing away from the end boards. I think you're going to see really concerted efforts to keep that puck out of Jordan Binnington's hands. I also think that, from asking Scott Arniel about this, that they felt they had that more or less under control by the second half of game 2. So if they can continue to do that, stuffing Blues breakout attempts has been a strength for Winnipeg in the playoffs and the regular season before it.
What do you make of the special teams battle from a Winnipeg perspective?
I mean, not good enough on the PK so far, I think, is straightforward about it. I saw Zach Bolduc today, and I thought that he made a really great pick on Vladislav Nemesnikov, or else that pass doesn't come off the boards to Robert Thomas for that game. Was it Thomas who scored the game 2 power play goal, or was that Snuggerud? Anyway, that pass that goes across, Nemestikov is in the seam. He's got to stick in the right place, but he can't get up high enough into the zone because you've got Zach Bolduc fighting for space. There have been a lot of moments like that where the Blues power play has, like, you know, within the gray area of this is probably not going to get called, but it could. They're finding little ways to make just an extra foot or two of ice for themselves. They have scored 3 times, is it already? They've gotten shots from great locations, and they've usually had net front traffic as well, like when Carey scored in Game 1. I think Winnipeg showed a lot of, I want to say, resilience and quality to hang in there and get out of Game 2 by making some really big kills, but the Blues power play has more or less found the chances it's wanted to so far.
You know what I noticed in game number 2, and like obviously game number 1, I mean, there were so many hits early on in the game. And then, of course, it finished with the melee at the end. I was so impressed. And listen, I've got time for business after the whistle. Certainly when you're in the stands, it gets people going. But I have to admit, I was really impressed with both teams in just how hard they were playing in between the whistles, finishing every single check. And I'm not sure whether it was because of some of the calls that had happened, you know, like with Pionk in game number 1, but there was not a lot of BS after the whistle. I mean, it seemed like both teams are focused, and I'll give the Jets a lot of credit for this, knowing that they have not been very good on the PK, and that's where St. Louis has scored. They've been more than willing on looking the other way or just focusing on the next shift than getting involved in that stuff. And I mean, for a game that has been like as intense and heavy hitting, in most other series, you'd see a lot of stuff after the whistle, and that really wasn't much a part of game 2. It was all done within the play of the game.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I guess there's an argument to be made if you're Winnipeg, keep it at 5-on-5. You've got this in the bag.
100%.
Like, maybe there's too much hubris in that, but it feels that way. That their 5-on-5 game is so good. Blues have one 5-on-5 goal, so one way to tilt things in your favor, just stay out of the box. I thought that there was a lot of reckless energy from both teams in game 1. There were a ton of hits, and they were just hits to hit. I thought that there were bigger and more impactful hits, including Stanley's, during the flow of play in game 2 as they got a bit smarter in picking their spots. In terms of the after whistle stuff, that's a really good observation on your part and must take an incredible amount of discipline on the part of the Jets and the Blues. For me, I still think there are too many penalties in this series. It's like they need to have a couple on each way. I feel like each game I've just seen penalty calls against both teams where I'm scratching my head being like, I don't know that I believe in that one. But that's just maybe my side point. I don't know if Jets fans feel the same way. I'm sure Blues fans do as well. It's just, if they can stay out, the only thing they can control is exactly what you're talking about, and that's their own discipline, and that is impressive.
Well, and you know what? And I think that speaks to, more about the Winnipeg Jets and their focus. Scott Arniel, the job that he and the coaching staff has done at getting this team ready to focus on what is important has been commendable all season long. And I think we're seeing a team that is just so bought in to their purpose that they're able to get away from things that frankly get a lot of other teams and players off their games and don't necessarily help when you're in very tight games with razor-thin margins.
Yeah, I think that there's something too about desperation happens when you don't necessarily believe that it's going to work if you just keep your foot on the gas. Like those sort of lose your mind moments, they might happen out of fatigue, that, you know, you just don't think clearly at the end of a shift. They might happen out of over exuberance, as you saw in game 1 as well. Or they might happen when you get off your game because you don't think that you're going to be able to get things done if you play the right way. And Winnipeg has 84 games now of playing the right way, and things go well. They know, like, the last 3 times the Blues have lost a game after being tied or leading heading into the third period, all against the Winnipeg Jets, because they keep their foot on the gas, and they have so many examples. They have their own history to point at, saying, hey, when we do things the right way, we win. And so far, so good through two games, pardon me, of this series.
Hey, Murat, before we go, did you get a chance to check in on Dallas, Colorado last night at all?
I watched a little bit of it. I caught the overtime. I caught the game-winning goal. Imagine the Dallas Stars leading that series 2-1 based on basically never leading in a game. That's
1 minute of the entire series.
I thought I saw a tweet saying, they have more wins in this series than minutes spent leading it.
That's exactly right.
That's amazing. And I think a lot of us, I don't know, did you? I'm not going to say I counted Dallas out, but I have Colorado as a favorite. That's the team I had going through, and it could still happen. But for Dallas to come through in overtimes like they have, that's pretty wild too.
Dallas looked pretty lost at the end of the season. I don't think there's any way around it. I mean, we saw what the Jets did to them in that massive game. It seemed like they sort of put up the white flag on the rest of the regular season. And despite all that great play before that game, I mean, they lost 7 in a row going into the playoffs and lost game 1 at home. But man, a couple big plays in the third period and a couple big OT goals sure can change things around. And, listen, from a Winnipeg perspective, this is the perfect scenario. I mean, the Jets taking care of their own business. Hopefully they can not have a long series and get a little bit of extra rest. But the wish of a 7-game series with tons of OT is very much on the table right now as these teams go into game 4 with Colorado looking to even it up heading back to the Lone Star State.
Yeah, I couldn't have imagined this quite so before the series began. But there's like a couple of group chats I'm in with Jets fans. I just sort of take the pulse. I'm not really a group chatter, but I read. And the things they're most concerned with right now are like, 1, what do you do with Gabriel Vilardi when he comes back? Do you slow play? And, hey, wouldn't it be nice if Colorado and Dallas just beat the puck out of each other heading into round 2? Those are the concerns. It's not, hey, look at that Winnipeg Jets breakdown. Hey, the Jets are need to do this, that, or the other thing. It's all bonus right now. It's all gravy. And, that's pretty stunning and telling for this stage of the playoffs, just how well things have gone.
Just on Vilardi, he was in the non-contact, so, I mean, we won't really talk seriously about him returning to the lineup until we see him change colors of the jersey, as Scott Arniel has said. But again, with 2 days in between these games, we certainly wouldn't rule out game 4. Maybe it's game 5. I was tossing around the idea, just because Iafallo has been so good with those guys and I think has helped them in their own end, has been able to carry his end of the load, with the offense, that as long as Ehlers is out, maybe the move for Vilardi is to go in on the side of Vlad Nemetsnikov with Perfetti, reunite the Lowry line, and have Tanev move down to the 4th line with Morgan Barron. Where are you at on that?
I mean, I see how it makes a lot of sense. The first line is cooking. Iafallo does a lot of dirty work. The prime Lowry line has Niederreiter on it, and he's such a force. I think it works. I think it might change how Scott Arniel could use that line. He tends to be a little bit hesitant about the foot speed of Vilardi and Perfetti kind of on the same line as well. I don't think either player is slow, though, so there's room for it. I think that's a completely decent way to sort of reintegrate Vilardi, because Connor and Scheifele are going to get heavy minutes. My number one concern, my number one factor is just don't rush the guy, and the Jets haven't rushed the guy. I think that you want him back at 100%, no chance of aggravation, and credit to them that he's in a non-contact jersey in game 3. And, if he doesn't play in game 4, I won't sound the alarm bells. I might say that it's just savvy business on the part of trying to get a star player back at full health.
Well, especially if the Jets can take care of their business tonight and go up 3-0. I mean, give themselves an opportunity to keep it rolling with the lineup that's playing right now, and then give themselves a nice break to get Vilardi back into the mix and hopefully be a little closer to seeing 27 at some point in these Stanley Cup playoffs. Can't wait for the game tonight. Just quickly, I mean, you were watching the other game. What a mess for the Oilers through 2 games down in LA. Yikes. You want to talk about a chat losing their mind? Head on over to our friends at Edmonton Sports Talk. Tom Gazzola had his hands full last night afterwards. That is not an Oiler performance that I think they'll be too pleased with, knowing the stakes after what had happened in game 1 and just how good this Kings team is.
Yeah, I mean, don't sleep on the Kings for sure. There was no real chance of them playing the Jets, but that's a matchup I did not want for Winnipeg, to be honest. I think that there are so many playoff excellent, make it hard to get to the middle types of things that the Kings do, and you saw how hard it was for Winnipeg to get shots. Well, outside of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl going supernova, the Oilers don't have a shot at this. And you can blame the goaltending as many have done. You can blame the deaf players as many have done. There seems to be a faction of Oilers fans who all blame Evan Bouchard. There seems to be a faction that all blame Darnell Nurse. Like, they're divvying out who to blame for the fact that they can't match with the Kings right now. And I think, unfortunately for the Oilers, that's been largely the story of their season. The superstars have been hurt at times, and I know they're playing great now, but the depth hasn't been there. There are players they've acquired that have not come close to filling the roles that they imagined that they would. And meanwhile, over here in St. Louis, you've got Philip Broberg playing a big job for St. Louis, and Dylan Holloway, the moment he comes back, he's going to be an X factor in the series. So not a lot has gone right for Edmonton so far.
Nothing triggers the Oiler fans more than the mere mention of Holloway and Broberg in the chat. I can tell you that. And Gazzola said it is 100% of shows that those guys are mentioned right now, especially when, the guys they spent the money on, Arvidsson and Jeff Skinner, in and out of the lineup. Skinner didn't play in game 2. It'll be interesting. Of course, tonight, great night of hockey. We'll get to all the games coming up in our Coolbet segment and the Coolbet lines a little later on. Murat, what do you got planned in between the two games? I guess there'll be some practice. Any cool things in St. Louis on the list for the weekend until we get to game 4?
Well, I think we might have to check out a Cardinals game. That would be a nice time. I think they're playing Friday, and I don't know if it's going to rain.
Busch Stadium, great spot to watch a game too.
Okay,
really,
yeah,
really
just
good one.
Been by it. I feel like I should check out some blues music if I can. Apparently, this place is actually associated with blues music as well. I got a calzone from Sauce on the Side beside me right now, which is a calzone place. Jordan Binnington has a custom calzone. I didn't get that one, but I'm excited. I'm excited to just eat all of the things while I'm here as well.
I suggest during my time in St. Louis, I was taken up by some locals. Emo's Pizza is sort of the St. Louis pizza, but there is a St. Louis style. It's almost like a cracker crust, and it's made with provolone cheese. You should try that at some point beforehand. Be interested to get your take on that. And the other thing that you'll find in a lot of places is deep fried ravioli.
Right.
Where they do the ravioli and then it's served with a marinara. I had never heard of it. I tried it there. I loved it. So there's a couple tips for your the foodie in you when you again. Oh, and Daddy Padre says in the chat, the Budweiser factory tour, also a fun way to kill a few hours. And it ends very well, I'll put it that way. Anyways, listen, first things first, I know you'll be covering the Jets and Blues, who had a big game tonight. Love the latest in the Athletic, folks. Again, all about the Jets' 2-0 lead in the series and the adjustments and storylines to watch. And just for people that want to get on that red light mailing list, Murat, what and how do they do it?
I think that the way through is just go to theathletic.com, possibly /NHL, theathletic.com/NHL, and that'll get you hooked up. I've clicked through to there, but forget. So I think that it's right there. It shouldn't be too hard to find if you just head for our NHL-based content.
Beautiful. Get on that, folks, for more from Murat and the great staff of the NHL writers over at The Athletic. Enjoy your time in St. Louis. Thanks for doing this. Should be a great one tonight. We'll talk to you soon, pal.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. There is Murat Atesh at WPG Murat on Twitter, or X as it were, and he'll have more great stuff throughout the series over at theathletic.com. Listen, I know the team's on the road. A lot of fans will be packing the arena tonight for the first road game watch party. If you haven't secured all your whites just yet, get on down to Royal Sports. Now, I mentioned that the hats sold out right away. Guess what? There's 2 more versions coming in. So keep your eyes on the at Royal Sports Winnipeg Instagram. But they also sold out all of these hoodies. Good news. Stock is back in or coming today. I talked to Greg last night. They've got more white hoodies coming in. So if you want something like this, something nice and white to wear around the city, to games, to the street parties, Royal Sports is the spot for all of that. Jerseys and more, all in white, waiting for you at Royal Sports. While supplies last, so I would get there sooner as opposed to later, considering the excitement for the team right now. While you're there, head on to the back of the massive Royal Sports building. Check out everything going on in the bike shop. Tons of new bikes coming in for the spring and summer. And, of course, soccer, baseball, tennis, you name it. If it's a sport that is happening in the summer, they are loaded with new stock for you to make the most of the beautiful weather that we've got here. I mentioned off the top, went down to Boston Pizza yesterday to watch some of the playoffs. Obviously, 3 great games last night. Got to be at a bar with a couple TVs. You can keep an eye on both of them. Nobody does it better than BP. And we dove into the playoff menu. You can check our social media feeds. I believe it might even be on TikTok. There it is. We are getting ready to try both the wing flights. Now, I did not have it in me to do the Scoville Showdown, but my pal Zolt, who was on camera, did get into those, and it was funny. I recorded him for about the first minute. He was good, and then he was feeling it for a a good amount of time. So if you like hot stuff, you got to get into BP and try the Scoville Showdown, which is 20 wings in 4 bold flavors, getting hotter after every round. And I will tell you that the hottest ones were absolutely nuts. I had a carrot that was on the plate of wings that after we finished the wings, I grabbed it. I ate it, and there was just a little bit of the hot sauce from the wing on the carrot, and I was feeling it for a long time. Now, I'm not that good with really, really hot stuff. But anyways, try that out if you like the hot stuff. The triple pepperoni pizza was awesome. And I actually bumped into Connor at BP with his girlfriend, and he had mentioned, oh, man, I heard you talking about the Wingman pizza on BP, so we decided to come down for that. He gave it an 8.8. He loved it. And that's the one with the all-meat wing bites in your choice of sauce with the buttermilk ranch drizzle and green onions. Lots of great stuff. Pizza flights back, wing flights back. They got a new nacho, the Double Trouble nachos as well. And we did try the Canadian All-Star Poutine, which was, bacon strips, cheese curds, matzah, and the maple gravy. The maple gravy is wild. Like you taste the maple. It is sweet. And I don't know, there's an addictive nature to it because I got through quite a bit of the poutine, figured I was done, and then every minute I'd just be going back for more. So anyways, no better place to get together with your crew for the game than your local BP. Jets Blues tonight. And make sure to check out that playoff menu. All right, we're going to check out Dave Pagnotta in just a minute. But before we do that, a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery and great WST supporter, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, Dave Pagnotta from the fourth period's coming up right away, and this segment is brought to you by Ben Moss. Ben Moss is proudly Canadian-owned and operated with history dating back more than 100 years. And folks, while the Winnipeg Jets chase a ring, if you need a ring or the best in jewelry, hit up our friends at Ben Moss. 3 locations in Winnipeg at Polo Park Shopping Center, St. Vital Center, and Kildonan Place. Committed to customer satisfaction. And check out a large selection of Canadian mined diamonds, lab-grown diamonds, and mined diamonds available with payment plans to suit your need. For more information, check out benmoss.com. Ben Moss, for the love of jewelry. All right, let's welcome in our pal Dave Pagnotta from the fourth period. Dave, what's going on? How are you?
Oh, it's middle of the playoffs. The sun's out. I'm loving it. I'm good, buddy. How are you?
Listen, I am well. Everyone in Winnipeg as well. I mean, what a start to the playoffs for the Jets. And you know, for the city of Winnipeg, the whiteout, I mean, to be the first game of the playoffs and how a game like that, coming back in the third period, up 2-0. I mean, things are very good in Winnipeg. What have you thought of the series so far? I mean, listen, the Blues have given their best shot too. These have been two great playoff games.
Yeah, they have, and it just goes to show you how deep this Jets team is, because they're utilizing their depth in all different facets. Obviously, the top guys are getting things done, but it's the intangible pieces that are doing the intangible work that you need come playoff time. And there's a different vibe. Remember, the chip on the shoulder going into the season from last year's playoff exit, it's still there. So a lot of the guys still remember what they need to do, what they didn't do last season, and what they need to do now. And it's the score, like, they haven't been blowing anybody out of the water because you can't. The Blues are a really good team, but the depth that's been exploited from the Jets in the right way, I mean, it just goes to show you how solid of a team and well-rounded of a group this really is.
They've been the best road team all year. They've got the opportunity to go up 3-0, but this will be a desperate Blues team tonight. You don't want to get down 3-0 in any series, especially against the 1 seed.
No, exactly. They're going to get the hometown crowd into it as well. The families will be there and whatnot. So there's a little extra motivation from the Blues side of things to get one on home ice and to make this a bit of a series. So, for them, they're going to be coming out with everything they've got. To go down 3-0 to this Jets team, you can't afford to do that. So this is, their unofficial Game 7, so to speak, for the Blues. And I'm expecting a hell of a performance from Binnington. I'm expecting a dominant performance from the D-core with Parayko and everyone. And then, of course, get the offensive guys rolling for this group. There's not that amount of depth like they've had, especially without, Holloway and the defensive awareness that the Jets have provided so far, and especially in certain moments in this series. But like I said, the Blues have no choice. This is going to be effectively their Game 7, so they're going to be coming out firing right out of the gate.
Especially with Vilardi and Ehlers on the mend right now. I mean, a short series would be huge for Winnipeg, especially while what's happening between the Colorado Avalanche and the Dallas Stars. And, we said on the program, let's just hope for 7 games and tons of overtime. And, we could very well be on to exactly that, Dave. Thoughts on that series? And, I mean, the incredible return of Gabriel Landeskog after 3 years away from the National Hockey League.
Unreal, right? Like the roller coaster ride that he had to go through just to rehab to get, and almost coming back last season, and then having to have another surgery and setback after setback, and finally getting back in it. Full credit to him. He could have easily, he doesn't need the money. Like, he could have easily just sat down and gone, I'm done. I can't. But the competitive, fiery nature that he brings, the leader, the true leader of that group, is huge. And obviously, Dallas up 2-1 right now. They get the OT winner last night with Sagan's goal. Fortuitous play for them, but that's what you need. They clogged things up quite nicely for Colorado. They just weren't able to muster up a lot. And I think Dallas recognized and realized that that's what they need to do in order to get ahead in this series against this club. Now, Heiskanen, I'm expecting to be back. I don't know if he'll be ready for Game 5. Game 4. More likely Game 5 at home. But yeah, these two teams are going to be going after each other. This is going to be like a 9-game series in 7 potentially, the way that they're playing. And
just the way we like it in Winnipeg.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you want. You want to see that happen. Let them beat the crap out of each other, and make it easier for your group. And when I talk about the depth, you mentioned the injuries. The fact that their depth is stepping up and the Jets' depth has stepped up without Vilardi, without Ehlers, is a testament to just how much talent is really on this club. If they can rest up a little bit longer and not have to worry about the games, they can wrap this up in, not a sweep, but maybe a gentleman's sweep in 5. It's going to give them a little extra preparation time and heal up time. Because it definitely looks like the Stars and the Avs are going the distance. That's what I projected and expected before the series started. This is going to be a fun one. And for Colorado, even though they lost, Game 3, just to have Landeskog dressing in uniform in his stall next to everybody is so much different than him just standing there in a suit. So there's added motivation here to not only get this done because you want to obviously keep going and compete for a cup, but you want to do it for your captain too.
Well, we talked for the last couple of months of the regular season about how important winning the Central Division was. And listen, the St. Louis Blues are no joke. But that series, there's a great team that's going to be golfing after 2 weeks of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And it's fun to watch from the sidelines to see who comes out. Your fourth period tag team partner, DB, Dennis, is on his way to Edmonton for games 3 and 4. What do you make of the mess that the Oilers are in?
I think they forgot how to play defense. That game last night, I know they threw, they got 6 goals and threw a bunch over at Stuart Skinner, but these 2 losses and these 12 goals against are not Stuart Skinner's fault in terms of the grand scheme of things. Like defensively, they have failed as a collective unit for this group. I think Victor Arvidsson on the Kempe goal thought he was still on LA. The way he gave up and coughed up that puck. This is a tough one for the Oilers. I thought their depth was going to be a problem going into the playoffs. There's just the supporting cast around Connor and Leon. It's not there this season. It's definitely not there in comparison to last year's run. Nobody expected Nuge to put up another 100-point season like he did a couple of years ago, and I don't think anybody expected Hyman to go back-to-back 50s. But neither of these guys got 50 points. Arvidsson has been a disappointment. Jeff Skinner's been a disappointment. Adam Henrique hasn't contributed offensively like they thought he would. The quality of depth, the performance of that depth just hasn't been there all season long. And defensively, I like the addition of Jake Wallman. That's not the type of defenseman they needed. I still like it, but I would have gone out and added, they're limited on assets. So I understand from a certain perspective that to get an Ekholm Jr. was going to be difficult, but that's clearly what they need this offseason if they get bounced here pretty early in this first round. Maybe you look at the goaltending down the road because you got to shake things up a little bit, but this is a collective team downfall from a defensive perspective. I don't throw these ones on Stuart Skinner at all.
Dave, the Habs are down 2-0, but credit to them. They've hung in and played really tough. Hard not to notice Patrick Laine with his butt stapled to the bench last night for the third period. Just thoughts on the Habs, but also where Laine is at in the on the pecking order in Montreal, and Marty St. Louis' thoughts on the number 92's performance.
Yeah, it's the playoffs. If you're not rolling, we're going to throw guys that are. And if that means your butt's on the bench, your butt's on the bench. It's that simple, especially in those types of situations. Now, yeah, credit to the Habs for staying in it. I'm still waiting for them to put a full 60 together. Games 1 and 2, especially in game 1, it wasn't until the third period where they woke up. Now, they were playing decently and they were containing as best they could, but just from an offensive side of things and creating chances and opportunities, they waited almost, both games till the third period. Yeah, they scored the opener in game 2 last night, but there just wasn't the extra offense that was there. I'm expecting more, and especially down, again, third period, you start going, you need to get the guys that are feeling it. And Laine clearly wasn't. And if that means you got to staple his butt to the bench, again, you do it. Because now, not only are you rolling with the guys that are going for you in that moment, you're also pissing off Patrick Laine in what should be a good way. So I'm expecting him at home on Friday to have a pretty solid outburst, against this Caps team at home. You're going to get the home crowd into it. You're going to have different motivation from that side of things, and that extra kind of – the Bell Center is unlike any other building, especially come playoff time. It is unreal and absolutely remarkable. I won't be there for Game 3. I'm going to be there for Game 4 on Sunday. But holy cow, that place, it just doesn't compare. So to have that behind these guys is going to play certainly a factor in this one. And again, in Game 3, I'm expecting a lot more from Patrick Laine. I have no problem with the benching.
Continuing our whip around the Canadian teams, we've got Game 3, Battle of Ontario. Series switches to Ottawa. You were in the building for the first 2. Yep. Thoughts on this one and the Sens' chances of getting back into it tonight at home?
Well, if they play the way they did in the second and third period, they'll have an opportunity to claw their way back in this series a little bit. After the first period, I looked at the guys in press row, and I texted DB too, and I was going, man, I don't think Ottawa knows it's the playoffs. Do they even want to be here? And then they woke up. It was a combination of them waking up and also Toronto taking its foot off the gas. which they've done occasionally this season. That used to be their MO in previous years. They take the foot off the gas, bite themselves in the foot. They were able to come back in this one, which was impressive to see, especially at that stage. But from Ottawa's side of things, more responsible play and just creating more offense, for them in those second and third periods. If they continue that, if they bust that out later today in Game 3, then they'll have an opportunity to come back in this one. But Toronto, we talked about Winnipeg's depth. Toronto's depth as well has really stepped up in the first couple of games, and I'm expecting that again tonight here in Game 3 for Toronto.
All right, well, we had to do the proverbial whip around of the Canadian teams that are playing. Let's talk about some of the teams that are not playing, because I know you in the fourth period, you guys have been very busy. A lot of movement when it comes to personnel, coaching, management. But let's start in Vancouver. What were your takeaways from the end-of-season addresses from all parties involved? I mean, Rutherford's comments about Quinn Hughes, and, of course, the elephant in the room is the future of Rick Tocchet as the head coach of the Vancouver Canucks.
I think the messaging from some of the guys in the room to their president and GM is less is more. Stop talking. Stop unnecessarily speaking and dishing things out. It's the same thing with Petey in the middle of the season. Everything was calm. Nobody was talking about JT and Elias Paterson anymore. Everything was kind of, okay, it's been settled. It was brought up again, but it doesn't seem like it's a big thing. And then Alvin comes out and says something about it. And then Rutherford comes out and says something about it. And it just blows up all over again. And I know that Petey would like to not have that happen. And now you've got the Quinn Hughes stuff. Well, you can talk about the future and wanting to keep him around. What the hell do you have to bring up his brothers for? It's almost like you're trying to prep. It's almost like he's not going to sign, which is not a foregone conclusion. He likes it there. He very much could. And he has 2 years left. But it's almost like you're prepping everybody for the eventuality that he will leave. Well, why? It's unnecessary. It caught a lot of people off guard. What I can say is Rick Tocchet and Quinn Hughes have a great relationship. Now, obviously, they're not going to exercise. They set it the option on Tocchet. So it's a matter of figuring out his contract. He wants big bucks. He wants, I believe I was told, around double of what he's making right now to stay on, which is, I can't remember if I think it's around $2.5 million is what he's making this season. He wants upwards of twice as much to stick around, and he'll get that somewhere. Whether it's Vancouver or not, we'll see. They haven't. If they wanted to give him that money right away, he would be locked up already. So they've got some back and forth to do, and in relatively short order. But Quinn and Talk they've got a good relationship. They get along very well together. If he leaves, depending who comes in, that will factor into Quinn's future with that organization. The primary thing is this team needs to compete for a playoff spot next season. They need to be competitive. They need to be in the mix if they want any hope of keeping Quinn Hughes around. They can talk contract now and everything will be, it is what it is. You can't sign anything until July of 26. So you can have these talks now and say, hey, look, if everything goes well, this is the type of contract we want to give you. Cool, I like it, fine, let's see how the season goes, and then finalize from there. But there's going to be a lot of work that needs to be done in Vancouver this summer. They're going to, again, the mandate will be make the playoffs next season. That's what they're going to try to do. We're going to see some interesting moves there. And I also wonder about the future of Demko in Vancouver. I would not be shocked if they explore the trade market on Thatcher.
Well, the Canucks were number one in the league in drama all regular season. Why not stay at the top throughout the offseason? Were you surprised that
it's like them and the Rangers are trying to fight for the drama title of the league?
Well, you know what I mean. It's a great segue over to New York. Peter Laviolette is out. I'd have to think that Chris Drury's feeling some heat. I mean, obviously coaching was part of it, but many of the moves, the Goudreau, the Trouba, seem to resonate horribly within that club. I mean, where do the Rangers go from here, and how much pressure is on the general manager in addition to the guy that's going to be taking the reins as the head coach?
Yeah, well, I mean, you would anticipate there being pressure on the GM, but with a new cushy extension, courtesy of the owner, it seems like, James Dolan believes in what Drury is able to do. And I think he's taking a lot of the back-to-back Eastern Conference final into effect here, and factoring into his decision. The Rangers are in a very interesting position. They will explore the market on Chris Kreider this summer. I believe they're going to have talks with teams about Mika Zibanejad as well. They only have $9.6, $7 million in cap space. And they have to get Keandre Miller signed, and they have to get Will Cooley signed, or trade them. But assuming they get those guys locked in, you've got a couple $1 million to play with. That's not a lot of wiggle room. And depending on what other moves they make, if they don't get these guys signed by July, those are two players that are susceptible to offer sheets, and teams are going to be looking at that. Every team has an extra 7.5. If the cap wasn't going up, the Rangers are screwed. But because of the extra $7.5 million, they've got a little bit of cushion here. And that 7.5 might just go to those two guys, which gives them $2 million to play with. They're in an interesting position without trading anybody else. So they're going to be a team to watch this summer. Drury has no choice but to get this team back into contention. And you look at where they're lined up. You've got JT Miller at the center dot. You've got Vinny Trocheck right behind. And then Zibanejad. You don't need those three up the middle when you've got holes in other areas, which is why I think they're going to definitely consider and explore the market on Mika, who's got a big say because of his no movement clause. But they're going to have to be creative, and I'm curious to see how they pull this off.
Well, I know we talked in the summer. With some of the moves that they did with Gaudreau, the way things went with Trouba, I do wonder. Yeah. New York's always been a place where everyone's wanted to go. I do wonder whether players, and maybe more importantly, agents, have some hesitation on how things are running in New York. What about the Islanders? Did Lou go kicking and screaming? And where do the Islanders go from here when it comes to who's calling the shots and running the show?
Yeah, well, they made that official determination at the beginning of April. It was either April 2nd or 3rd where they spoke to Lou and said, we're not going to keep you on. We're going to move on. We're going to just wait. We're not going to make any announcements now. And they waited a couple of weeks, about 10 days or so, to make that official. They're casting a wide net. They're going to look at all their options to see who's capable of coming in at a president role, at a GM role, and that GM will dictate the future of Patrick Roy and his staff. I think we're going to see more changes off the ice on the island as part of the management team. I think there's going to be more restructuring there once the new guy comes in, and then kind of go from there. The mandate will be make the playoffs. They've got a lot of cap space. They've got a lot of cap space. They've got a lot of flexibility, and they host the All-Star festivities next season before everybody takes off for Italy in Milan for the Winter Olympics. They're going to be active. They're going to want to figure this out in relatively short order because, little over 2 months, we've got the draft and the free agency. They're going to have to start retooling here relatively quickly. The interesting thing with the Islanders as well is my understanding is a couple players, including Cal Palmieri, had extensions in place, which is why they didn't trade him ahead of the deadline. But those extensions, and there was another player, there's a younger player, he's eligible to be a restricted free agent this summer, also agreed to an extension. But nothing was filed. So I'm not sure where that's going to go. I don't know if the Islanders collectively will honor it. I don't know if they're going to just say, you know what, forget it. Let's just go to July 1. But that's a little interesting wrinkle in this little situation that has occurred here now that Lou is no longer part of the mix. So we'll see what happens there. But they're going to be an interesting club as well, and they've got a hell of a lot more flexibility financially than the Rangers do right now, and that might be certainly to their benefit.
Dave, the one other team I wanted to ask you about is a team that seems like has a very clear mandate, make the playoffs, be better, be more competitive, and that's the Seattle Kraken, who are also now making big changes in management and coaching.
Yeah, they're looking for a new head coach. They've got Botterill coming in, moves from assistant to GM. Ron Francis moves up, but Jason's going to handle the day-to-day and the hockey ops side of things. So they have cap flexibility too. There will be changes that will be made there, but the anticipation is we've got to compete for a playoff spot, which is tough because of how tight and deep the West really is, but especially in terms of playoff contenders. But they're going to have to add to it. They're going to want to add to their offense. They want to add more firepower to the group. They've got some cap space to play with. and they'll be active. But I think they're going to be active both on the free agency side of things and also the trade market. I think they're going to look to get a little bit creative here in how they retool, not even retool, just add to the group that they've got. They want to complement Matty Beniers. They want to give Shane Wright an opportunity to play full time and whatnot, but they want to insulate these guys with the right pieces. And they're going to be active this summer. Once it's not so much, having to bring in a coach right away. The coach decision more impacts what free agents they potentially bring in, because obviously those players are going to want to know what's the structure, what's the system in place, how do I fit in. But trade wise and activity wise, I think they're going to be another team to keep tabs on, especially around the draft.
Dave, great stuff, man. We've got some great hockey coming up this weekend. Fun to talk about who's not playing, but the focus is back on the ice tonight with some big games, including the Jets and Blues. You be well. We'll catch up soon.
Sounds good, buddy. Take it easy.
Teams coming in pairs. And we do have a full Canadian team, which we'll check in right now. But we can tell you that the leaders, Isaiah Salindo and Kevin Velo, not familiar with these guys, but wow, a 14 under 58 today playing best ball. 14 under. They've got a one-shot lead over the Højgaard brothers. Our buddy Coolbet's own Adam Svensson of Canada, teaming with Cam Davis. They are 3 shots back right now at 11 under par. Of course, the defending champs are Rory McIlroy and Shane Lowry. They were 8 under par. They're tied for 16th right now. And I'm looking, the Canadians went out late. So we still... Have they gone out? Yeah, they're only through 6 holes. They're 2 under right now. A lot of work left to be done. It's best ball today, alternate shot tomorrow, best ball, alternate shot. Kind of a fun event. So there's your latest Breezy Bend golf update. Of course, Breezy Bend opening this week. And if you are thinking about looking for a great long-term home for you and your family at one of Winnipeg's top private courses, check out Breezy Bend. You can give our pal Corey Johnson a call at the clubhouse, or find out more online at breezybend.ca. And Breezy will be welcoming the province to the golf course later on in August, hosting the 2025 Manitoba Open. All right, let's get to fan feedback, brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market with no fees. What you see is what you pay. Fans First very busy right now with people trying to find a way to get into the whiteout. Check out the seat today and know that when you're on that site and you click on a ticket, there's a price there. That includes everything. There's no fees on top. And certainly from a selling perspective, you list your seats, you know exactly what's coming back to you, and you're going to get it promptly e-transferred the next business day after the game. Check out the site today, fansfirst.ca. All right, we asked how many games will the Blues series go. 1% feel like it's going to go to 7. 11% like it to be a 6-game series. 19% of you are bringing out the brooms. And then say 4. And 5, by far the most popular answer is 67%. Of course, that would be Jets in 5 because the Blues can only win this series in 6 or 7, being down to nothing. More thoughts and all of your takes, always welcome in Fans First, fan feedback. Let us know today in the chat. And don't forget, Fans First, available for you throughout the playoffs, Bomber season, all year long, by fans, for fans, no fees. All right, Remo, we've got a couple things to get to before we do our before we do the Coolbet lines and look at these games tonight. We do have a little bit more of Scott Arniel, which I think we should play for folks, and then as a special treat, a clip-it or a snippet of a hilarious video of the Blues engaging Coach John Gruden to get behind them for such an important Game 3 tonight. But let's go to 10, Reem, for the other Arniel clips and just spice in a little bit more of the coach. This is Arnie on the play of the top line and handling the matchups now that Monty will have the last change for the St. Louis Blues with these next 2 games in St. Louis. Here's Coach Arniel.
Yeah, we had the last change at home, so obviously things will probably change here tonight. But you know, that's kind of been the challenge all year to not only Scheif's line, Vladdy's line, our fourth line. You're going to end up against different opponents each night. If you're going against the other team's top 6, you got to win that. You got to win that zone time advantage, and you know, that's for me is what's kind of happened. And if we can do that, if we make the top players play on their end of the rink, you know, hopefully they're tired and they got to go off the ice and change before they get to go to use their skill set. So we've been on the right side of that so far, but it's a different building now when now we come in here and Monty has last change, and we got to have to play that game. But other guys are going to get caught out in the ice against some of their top people. They got to handle it, you know, accordingly.
So there's a coach on those matchups now with the Blues having the last change, regardless of who they're playing. Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor have been a handful for the Blues to handle. Here's what the coach had to say about Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele elevating their game.
Yeah, we had the last change at home, so obviously things will probably change here tonight. But you know, that's kind of been the challenge all year to not only Scheif's line, Vladdy's line, our fourth line. You're going to end up against different opponents each night. If you're going against the other team's top 6, you got to win that. You got to win that zone time advantage, and you know, that's for me is what's kind of happened. And if we can do that, if we make the top players play on their end of the rink, you know, hopefully they're tired and they got to go off the ice and change before they get to go to use their skill set. So we've been on the right side of that so far, but it's a different building now when now we come in here and Monty has last change, and we got to have to play that game. But other guys are going to get caught out in the ice against some of their top people. They got to handle it, you know, accordingly.
All right. Couple more from the coach, and this is on that matchup, and you know, it looks like I think we've seen the Thomas line go up against the top line. You know, if that is the case, Arnie's on you know, if Monty decides to go Robert Thomas and his group against the Scheifele line 1. Hello?
Sorry, I got distracted here. I had to step out for a sec. What was that? You're live.
What are you doing? Okay, number 12. This is Arnie once again on the Robert Thomas line versus the Scheifele line.
Well, I think that's one of the things since Four Nations that, you know, I think that Monty's, you know, he's put the responsibility on Thomas and that line. They've gone against. We look back at a lot of their matchups and who they've played against, and they've gone head to head against other teams' top lines. And obviously, we know their success from that point where we are now. So they're good players, and they played a lot like what we ask of our top players about playing well without the puck, buying into defending first. That's what they're getting on the same side. So right now, it's whatever. It might be a little bit of a trade-off happening, but I expect that matchup probably be the same.
All right, and one more, and this is just on, you know, the play of Scheifele and Connor so far, and you know, the two of them scoring huge goals in big moments so far in the series.
Yeah, I think that, I can say the same thing the other way when Kyrou or Buchnevich or Thomas, that puck hits their stick, their skill set is coming out, and that's kind of what you see with Scheif and KC, that if they get the puck, that's the big thing, is that they're working to get the puck and they're working to get themselves into spots on the ice that now they become real dangerous. And I think that you can say that about any team in this league. If your skilled guys have puck possession in key areas, they can make damage, certainly do some damage.
All right, so there's the coach mixing it in throughout the show today. Jets and Blues tonight, 8:52. Okay, we'll save the John Gruden for the end of the program. This is funny, but let's dive into the Coolbet lines. One thing that I usually am all geeked for and talk quite a bit about on the show that I haven't even mentioned today is tonight's NFL draft. Sort of a big deal for NFL fans. It's a weird draft in that, we've had so many amazing quarterbacks or high quarterback prospects the last few years. This year, outside of Cam Ward, who's the heavy favorite, minus 10,000 at Coolbet to be the first overall pick. The big question is to where Shedeur Sanders, Deion Sanders, kid from Colorado, is going to end up. Will Jackson Dart potentially move up into the late first round and get selected? Coolbet right now has a ton of options for you. We had a fun chat today on the Lock Shop with Jake from Coolbet, who came on. We kind of went through some of this line movement that has changed so much. It looks like the first pick's going to be Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, the two-way receiver cornerback from Colorado, going 2 to the Browns. Penn State edge rusher Abdul Carter is the heavy favorite to go 3rd overall at minus 33. And then offensive lineman Will Campbell going to the Patriots, minus 625 to be the 4th overall pick. This Ashton Jeanty, the running back from Boise State, has seen his number go from 16-1 a month ago to be the 5th overall pick, all the way down to minus 223. I do think there's a lot of smoke that the Bears might be trying to get Jeanty. I don't rule out the chances of them actually moving up ahead of the Jags, who are on the clock at 5, to take Jeanty. A special player. We don't usually see running backs that high, but this could be the year where we get one that high. There's props on the team to draft Ashton Jeanty, and the Bears are minus 175 on that. And he's a huge favorite to be the first running back drafted. But if you go to Coolbet, you've got draft specials, you've got over-under totals on many of the top prospects, and then you can pick what position your team or any team is going to select with their first round. Wild scenario. This is the first time in NFL history that we go into the draft and every single team has their first round pick. So if you are a draft Nick or want to have a little fun with the draft, Coolbet has so many markets. But as often happens, these will come off the board not like right at draft time. So I'd suggest you get over there right now. If you haven't played there before, use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. As far as the main event tonight, it is the Stanley Cup Playoffs. We have 4 big games starting at 5:30 tonight. Panthers and Lightning going at it. The Lightning minus 123 favorites to even the series at home. Panthers plus 105. Just after 6 p.m., it is the Battle of Ontario moving to the nation's capital, Leafs and Senators. This opened as basically a pick'em last night. The Sens are now minus 130 favorites, and the Maple Leafs are plus 110 to win. The Vegas Golden Knights are in Minnesota to take on the Wild. That series 1-1 after a big Minnesota victory in game number 2. The Wild are plus 135. I think they're a really live home dog tonight in this game. Vegas minus 159. Vegas is going to have to figure out how to handle Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek, and Matt Boldy, who are stacked on that top line and gave the Vegas Golden Knights fits last game. And then the main event for all of us, 9:30 tonight, or it says, 8:37 this is saying. I think it's more like 8:52. But anyways, this opened at minus 118 Winnipeg, even money, plus 100 for St. Louis. So the Jets a slight favorite on the road And that is where things are right now. Although the total for this game is actually at 5, which is wild. Now, we put together a partner parlay today on the Lock Shop. We are going to take the Senators to win and get to 2-1. We're going to take a run with the Wild to build off that home crowd and get up 2-1 on Vegas. And then we've adjusted the total for the Jets-Blues game to 5.5 and taken the under. That's 5 plus 582 if you put it in yourself. The boys over at Coolbet have boosted it up to plus 670. That is at the top of the page in the combo cards. So you can jump in on that. And I guess I should probably put together a little WST parlay. Who do we like to score tonight, Reem? I'm picking Kyle Connor every game right now with the way he's playing in this series and the success he's had against the Blues. The baby swag is real for the new father. He has just been on an absolute heater.
Yeah, that would be good. What about, does Perfetti get on the board? Line 2 on the road with the better matchup. We see Adam Lowry score if you want to go for a long shot, but it seems like scoring really tough. Kyle Connor probably the safer pick. What is he? He's plus 125. Scheifele plus 166. I mean, I follow. He's on the top line. Plus 275. He scored in game 1.
He's getting it done. Perfetti plus 345.
Oh, here.
Morrissey 6-1 to score tonight. And the Pionky Tonk man, Neil Pionk, plus 1050. I might have to call and get a number on put a number up on the captain, Adam Lowry. I'm feeling a big game for Lowry tonight. But again, you can do your own bet builder over at Coolbet if you want. Just click on bet builder and then follow along. But player points, assists, shots on goal, it's all there. What's the number for power play goals in this game tonight? Over 1.5 power play goals plus 152.
It's not bad.
Interesting number today. I mean, obviously the Jets have a great power play and the Blues are 3 for 7 so far. So plenty of options tonight. As we get to the series prices right now, like Dallas, Colorado, after last night, Dallas is now minus 149 favorites and the Avs are plus 125. Probably a great time to bet Colorado if you do think that they come out of this series. The Kings, Oilers now plus 375 dogs in their series. Still haven't played a home game yet, but they are in a tough spot. Lightning and Panthers. The Panthers minus 227 after that road win. Tampa's plus 180. And the Ottawa Senators are plus 550 dogs in a very similar situation that the Oilers are heading home down 0-2, just like the Blues are. Blues plus 750 to win the series. Jets minus 1250. And, Minnesota, despite winning that game, usually you see the line flip or get closer to even. Not so in this one. The book still loves the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas minus 208. Minnesota plus 160. So we've got you covered at Coolbet for the NFL draft tonight. Get over there. NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, Major League Baseball, and much more. And stay tuned. We'll figure out a date for our next poker tourney. I saw Randy D last night at BP while we were there, and he's all fired up. He's become the number 1 ranked WSTer, I think, in our poker tourney. So if you haven't played, stay tuned to WST and our social media channels, and we'll let you know when the next tourney is. And of course, we'll work it around the Stanley Cup playoffs. All right. Before we go, we got to play this. This is John Gruden. Of course, Coach John Gruden now doing some of the best content that Barstool Sports has ever put out. He has been doing a bunch of unboxings where teams are sending them, usually football teams, sending him helmets and jerseys, and he does a bit. Well, today he got a hockey box. Yeah, that's right. The St. Louis Blues trying to get Coach Gruden on side. And here's about a minute. The full 6-minute video is hilarious. Certainly recommend you watching it, even if we get a shot or two our way as the opponents of the St. Louis Blues. But here's John Gruden getting his box from the Blues ahead of a big Game 3 tonight.
Well, I may not know that much about hockey. I admit that. but I do know a big game when a big game is here. And tonight there's a big game in St. Louis. And for this, I'm gonna use my switchblade knife. You see, the St. Louis Blues sent me a box. And the St. Louis Blues are down 2-0 to the Winnipeg Jets. And I'm concerned about that, but I'm excited because down 2-0 gives you a chance to do something unbelievable. And when you got a head coach like Jim Montgomery, I guarantee you, he's telling his team right now, hey, Winnipeg's got dreams of winning the Stanley Cup. Winnipeg this, Winnipeg has dreams of that. Hey, we're the freaking nightmare, the St. Louis Blues. We're at home tonight. We're back at Enterprise Center in front of our fans. And we're going to hit these guys into the glass, onto the ice. And we're going to out-hit them. And when we substitute, we're going to get faster.
He goes on from there. They did send him some nice stuff. I got to see Gruden put on the skates and gloves that he received and get on the ice. And he did get an autographed Jordan Binnington. He name-checked Brett Hull, Jordan Kyrou, Chris Pronger. I'm not sure he has any idea whether Brett Hull is a current player for the Blues or a former player for the Blues. But it is all there. Wow, we went long. We should get this up for the podcast because it is a game night. Although, of course, late start this evening, but you can wet your whistle with the Battle of Florida and the Battle of Ontario first, and then we'll fire it up with the main event tonight. The Jets looking to go up 3-0 on the St. Louis Blues tonight. Big show tomorrow. Weber will join us from St. Louis with a full recap of tonight's game and a look ahead to Game 4 on Sunday afternoon at News in St. Louis before the series, if St. Louis can get a game, returns here to Winnipeg on Wednesday for game number 5. That is going to do it for us, folks. Wherever you are tonight, have a great time with whoever you're watching the game with. It should be another beauty between these two teams. And make sure to join us tomorrow. Couple things. If you're looking for tickets for the watch party on Sunday afternoon, go over to our website at winnipegsports.com/contest. You can enter to win there. We'll give those away on tomorrow's show. And make sure to check our social media channels. Liz Hood did such an amazing job for us down on the streets at the Whiteout Street Party. We just put out a really fun video where she's talking to Jet fans about the Jets' biggest rival. I think you'll really like that. And there's all sorts of stuff. I mean, we got additional content, game recaps after the game, which will be there waiting for you tomorrow. Another great reason to turn on your notifications or just check it on the podcast on your drive to work in the morning. And again, we've even got a review of the triple pepperoni pizza from yesterday. That is up there. So stay on the social channels and on the YouTube. Connor and Remo will have a full recap of tonight's game waiting for you in the morning when you wake up, or if you stay late enough, later on this evening. And of course, we'll be back at it with the big Friday show. We'll have Hacksaw on, get the latest on the NFL draft, and we'll have so much coming from the Stanley Cup playoffs. And of course, marbles coming up as well. That's going to do it for us. Thanks to all the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day, and all of you for hanging out. Enjoy the game tonight, and join us tomorrow, 1 p.m. right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.